yeah. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash. Yeah, I'm in the end zone. Where did he go? You way too slow, homie, I been gone. I know you see, I got the rings, homie, I been flown. Me and the team going for rings, that is the end goal. Hey, I go beast mode, all around the world like Eco. I go crazy like CeeLo, can't stop me like Chico's. I'm suave like Rico, can't be mine no repo. This my home like Depot, can't deny like Vito. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Yeah. GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I never crash. Hey, way too fast. I gotta go, I'm in the zone, foot on the gas. Hey, GPS, I got goals, I know where to go, so I'll never crash.
Welcome to Darlington Raceway for the next race here of the 4-Wide Racing Series TJ's Teams action. And here we are for the Dropping the Hammer pre-race show alongside Keelan Belsha. My name is Francisco Bacallao. Keelan Belsha, the track too tough to tame. It is one that is not easy for these drivers here, but we can only wait to see what happens here tonight.
I do believe it's the hardest oval that we have on the service. Thank you for having me up here, Francisco and Kenneth, who will join us in a little bit. But yeah, this is probably the hardest little, just short of a mile and a half that we will go to on the 4-Wide Racing TJ's team schedule this season. And we're going to take a look at here in a second. As we reach race 11, we are getting to that point where your playoff points are mattering just a little bit more, cresting past halfway in the regular season. Francisco, there's a lot of opportunities to make up points, but there's a lot of opportunities to lose them too, especially here at Darlington at a track too tough to tame.
Yeah, we are halfway through the season, so it's going to be important for some of these guys to look forward into the next couple of races, but we do have to go over last week's race at the Talladega Super Speedway, and it was with Lance Hill, who was able to take victory at the Talladega Super Speedway, but it was anything but easy. Steven Maggio and Brandon Hawken, two familiar faces, were on the front row for this one. They got things going. Hawken led a lot of the single file action early, but trouble here brewed for Nicholas Baumann, who got turned around, and Jaden Porter slides across the middle of the field.
The incident right there, and on this lap 21 run, Kyle Benson leading the pack with Steven Stempian in there behind him, and that's how the race filtered out for a while. Had a little bit of green flag racing before we had another incident right there with Rodney Roberts in the 20 car. Austin Reedy got into it, and it was a incident back there behind them, as this was Nicholas Baumann surveying himself through the pack right there, and he ended up getting up, leading the pack right there. As they continued to race, Lance Hill ended up in the lead with 20 laps to go.
And the caution here is what broke up the long green flag run. Green getting turned by Kevin D'Elia, goes sideways across the field, saved it, but the automatic or the manual caution by Tyler Murray is what set up a string of yellows, and a wrong choice there on the restart put AJ Green on the back foot, getting involved in the big crash here, and the move by Lance Hill, just barely cutting it tight there with Brandon Hawken, beating and banging to the line to capture his first win in just over 2 seasons, back in the exciting Road America finish in Season 4 with Lawson Peel on that occasion, and this was the 7th closest finish in 4-Wide history.
Quite a close one. It was good for Lance Hill to get back in victory lane at Talladega, punch his ticket to the playoffs, and his teammate AJ Green, another guy looking for that success, replicated here today at Darlington, where his last win came.
And now, since it is in the spirit of Throwback Week here at Darlington, let's go back and look at our KBRN moment in time. And this actually goes way back to the very beginning of it all, back in 2020.
Welcome to today's KBRN Moment in Time. For this edition, we go back to the very start and May of 2020.
Live from the Talladega Superspeedway, it's the Talladega 119 for round 6 of the Trexco iRacing League Arga Stock Car Series. And of course, we're glad to have you tuning in with us here on KBRN.
This coverage of the Trexco iRacing League from Talladega was one of the first full broadcasts aired on the KBueno Racing Network. The show had the original graphics, original side-by-sides, and more, all controlled by our first producer, Charlie Beyer. The race itself, while filled with caution flags, brought some great racing with the likes of AJ Bain, Sammy Yahya, and Jordan Kuntz among the names in the field. As the race came down to a late restart, teammates Curtis Granger and Will Reichert charged to the line in a photo finish, going the way of Granger for the win.
The 77 is start to wreck side by side with the Vag Esports cars. Who's it gonna be? It's gonna be Curtis Granger by Talladega.
Wow. Not a bad start to the broadcast network's coverage. This race and this broadcast still stand as one of the first pivotal steps in making KBRN what it is today. And that's today's KBRN Moment in Time.
And that was certainly a good way to ways back, Keelan, just thinking about iRacing and its status back in 2020 with the whole pandemic going on at the time, it resulted in a lot of people getting brand new accounts and being able to join the service, and that was just the peak of iRacing, if you will. Just so many new people, a lot of fun memories, and just looking at the differences, the KBueno Racing Network all the way back then, what is now 5 years ago, half a decade, the lifetime of this channel, and everything we've been able to do since. So that was certainly a good little throwback there for all of us here on the channel. But let's look back to last season, where we were here at the Darlington Raceway, and see exactly what happened.
It's the first green flag in 2024. We're racing from Darlington. We haven't seen Hawken defeated yet. Peel might be the challenger. Our leaders are coming in, and Moreno got around Brandon Hawkins, so a change for the race lead. So this race is blown wide open. This Banks is way slow out of turn 2, and here comes Lounslogger. He's gonna come away with his first win if he holds on. Patrick Thompson with a last charge in turn 4, but the 13 of Greg Lounslogger is a winner in season 6.
And Craig Lounslogger held off the 88 of Patrick Thompson for that win. Both drivers were fighting for their first win of the season, and Lounslogger has at his most recent win in 4 wide to date. And here is a list of our former Darlington winners in series history, all the way back to season 1 with James Holzer, former champion of the series, capturing the first event here. And you have to go back to season 3 when Kyle Benson captured a win here in the Gen 6s. Eric Schaefer was able to take the crown in season 4 and the first time around with the next gens, with AJ Green, the much talked about most recent win for him in that playoff event here in the final overtime restart that ended under caution. And we just went over Craig Lounslogger's most recent win. So Elon, when you see this list of former winners of this racetrack, what do you make of that list?
Yeah, 4 of those former winners are in the field today, so a lot of the talent that was there in these old Darlington races will be back here today. A couple of them looking to defend, and one of those guys looking to defend will be the 48 of AJ Green, who has yet to win since that season. 5 victories, so it's been quite a while. Craig Lounslogger on that strategy move last year got it done. He'll be looking to replicate, so there's a lot of good talent in this field, especially last week's winner, Lance Hill, who's AJ Green's teammate.
Yeah, AJ Green looking to end the winless streak, and his teammate Lance Hill was able to end the winless streak. So let's see if we can bring in Lance Hill and talk to him as part of our Dropping the Hammer pre-race show interview. And actually, we don't have Lance Hill available. Looks like he's not in one of the voice channels to be able to talk to him, so we won't be able to exactly talk to Lance Hill. So we'll just move on from there, and we'll go to the KBueno track map here to summarize the Darlington Raceway, Keelan.
Yeah, Darlington Raceway, just short of 1.5 miles in Darlington, South Carolina, opened in 1950, celebrating its 75th anniversary this year in the brand new 2025. And it's a vastly different track on both ends of the racetrack, kind of egg-shaped, a little bit more banking on one side of the track than the other. And the straightaways are different. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 are going to be quite different than every other corner that you will ever race here on iRacing. And you took us for a lap around here, Francisco.
I did. Let's see if I did any good. You see, going into turn 1, it's a weird entry. You have to go all the way to the bottom and let the car go up to the wall. You have to get really close to the wall and then kind of do the same kind of exit as you did in turn 1. You get down to the bottom and let it come back up to the wall. Very easy to hit the wall and get your Darlington stripe. And then 3 and 4, it's a little bit different. You kind of want to stay as high as possible and really let the car rotate its way all the way through the corner. It's very easy to let the car slide in 3 and 4 and lose control of it, but if you keep the pretty enough at the wheel, you're able to keep going.
Very difficult track. I could never get this one down, Francisco, so you're already doing better than I ever could. I can't run a lap here without hitting the wall, and I'm sure there's going to be some guys in the field tonight who are going to be feeling that same pain of bouncing off the wall, getting your Darlington stripe. But if there's one track that I think you can probably get away with hitting the wall the most, it's probably going to be that 3 and 4 end of this racetrack. When you're right up against it, you don't scrub off too terribly much speed, and you certainly don't get too much damage. So it's not that bad. There's a lot worse tracks and worse places on the 4-wide racing schedule to get damage on your race car.
I second that, Keelan. It is definitely one of the tracks you can get away with that kind of damage on the outside wall, but Since we didn't have Lance Hill, we do have a former winner of Darlington. You have to go all the way back to Season 3 for his victory, but we have Kyle Benson here available with us, and we're going to talk to him. So, Kyle Benson, this is Francisco here in the Dropping the Hammer pre-race booth. You got me?
Yes, sir.
Well, Kyle, you are a former winner here at Darlington. It's been a couple of seasons, but you have put yourself in position with these next-gen cars. What do you think is going to be the key to staying up front and being in contention late?
Just saving your stuff. Just making sure you got tires at the end. It just depends on how long the race is gonna run. I don't know. It depends. I know they did some with the tires with these cars, from my knowledge, so it's gonna be a little different. But other than that, though, I think it's just kind of the same thing. Just conserving tires here and just make sure you have a car at the end.
And after 12 races, Kyle, you are sitting currently second in the points, 30 points behind Jaden Porter. So while you don't have that win, you're looking really good in the overall standings right now. So kind of a mixed question here when it comes to what do you grade your first half of the regular season, and what are some of the things you need to improve on as we start turning the page and start counting down the races until the playoffs to build on that championship run?
I think how I've been running this year is kind of the best I've been in a long time. I haven't been this high in points this early in the season. Usually I'm kind of clawing up through the points field. Sorry, I can speak there. But other than that, though, I think just finishing races, taking advantage of the stuff that happens in front of you, and just taking advantage of opportunities. There's a few opportunities I could have probably won this year. I think Atlanta is one of the big ones that kind of hops in my mind. Same with Daytona. But I think if we just keep running how we're doing, get good finishes and get good points, I think we'll be sitting pretty good come playoff time.
We still have a ways to go, but you've certainly put in the effort for it, Kyle. We appreciate the effort for you coming out here and talking to us on this pre-race show. We'll let you step aside and get ready for qualifying here in a couple minutes.
All right, thank you.
That's Kyle Benson, former winner here at the Darlington Raceway, looking to capture his second win and be the first repeat driver to win a race in this series at this racetrack. So we'll actually toss it here to our main guy at the KBueno Racing Network, Kenneth Bueno, for some quick thoughts and remarks regarding this weekend's events.
Well, thank you, Francisco. And Darlington is going to be the biggest challenge of them all. It is the track too tough to tame for a reason. It names itself that way because it is so tough to drive and tough to manage in traffic as well. We've seen several great finishes here. Season 6 brought us nearly a photo finish between Craig Lautenslager and Patrick Thompson, and we've seen plenty that this race can go down to the very end of the wire. So, Francisco, it should be a lot of fun, and I can't wait to join you guys in the booth in just a couple moments.
Yeah, very excited to see what Darlington has to present for us, Kenneth, and I was very happy to be able to experience the Southern 500 and Xfinity race here back in 2023. Saw Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson win on those respective occasions, but the racetrack, very impressive, just standing there on the surface, just for how worn it is, how intact it is, and the banking and just every aspect of the Darlington Raceway. Such an old facility, and it just, you can just kind of feel the history when you're standing in that racetrack. Fantastic racing, and hopefully get the opportunity to go back, and hopefully you guys get the opportunity to go. But we'll talk about that on the other side of this break. We're happy to have you join us. This was the Dropping the Hammer pre-race show. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back for 4 wide racing action.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Francisco, what's up? Yo, what's up, Kenneth? How's it going, man? How are you? Good, how you been? What you got in the bag, man?
I got a panini, I have a hoagie, I got it all through the Wall Rewards app.
You can order it all through the app?
You can order it all through the app.
I can order it all through the app. The world is my oyster! By placing your order on the Wawa app, you can pick up at any time with ultimate satisfaction. Gotta have a Wawa.
That's my bonus for my quota. Boy, don't nobody home. I just get a check in the jail with the set. All we do is rap. Ain't worried about next. I'm just making plays, Broadway in the flesh. On us, this right here with the
The chase for a series championship is anything but a cakewalk. But not often do you find a place that, for decades, echoes the difficulty and unforgivingness that Darlington provides. And in that difficulty stands the right stage for 30-plus drivers to poise a mere 147 laps away from added momentum to the big dance at season's end. Live from the virtual Darlington Raceway in Darlington, South Carolina, we bring you coverage on the KBueno Racing Network to the presentation of the 11th race in the Season 7 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series. Welcome to a trip back in time. We're turning back the clock. It'll be a lot of fun, and we cannot wait to have this race honor the past, but have a finish that could alter the future of this series, where alongside Francisco Bacalhau and Keelan Belsha, I'm Kenneth Bueno. We'll have Charlie Beyer and Eli Comerford join us over the course of tonight's coverage. Well, Francisco, you set the stage in our Drop in the Hammer pre-race show perfectly. This track, and when you stand on it, you can feel the history. You can feel just how abrasive it is on the surface. And then when you look at it on a deeper level, just how difficult it is to drive for these members on the sim and for these guys in 4-wide that will have to tackle this 1.366 mile beast once again, with a chance for either a new winner or someone to put their foot on everybody's chest for what could be a great entry to the playoffs or momentum added.
I'm happy to be here, Kenneth, and I think it's exactly accurate. This track is not a crown jewel for no reason. You show up to this racetrack and you have to be on your A game every single lap to stand a chance, let alone be able to be successful and win the race. We've heard many drivers talk about how much they can't stand this place. I think it was Kyle Petty that said they turn this into a pond and start fishing in it, and he'll like it a lot better then than it being a racetrack. Goes to show just the relationship certain drivers have had with this track in the past. But drivers here tonight, they won't be able to worry about it being a pond. They're going to have to go out there with their race cars and drive around 147 laps, and the one who can hang on to it the best way possible is going to be a winner.
It's a track, Keelan, that you need to have thick skin to drive in. It's not for the weak or the faint-hearted whatsoever, but it is a track that you only see once on the 4-wide schedule as we take a look at what is to be for the rest of Season 7. Past this point, we are just about a couple of weeks away from the All-Star break at Las Vegas over on the West Coast, but I mean, this stretch of races from Atlanta up until Kansas, that'll be for us next week on January 22nd. You've got very different racetracks in between, from those that are a little harder to drive to those that are chaotic like they are in Talladega, and how they are in Darlington is just as unique as the others.
And you know, I'm sure there's a bunch of guys here tonight that are happy that this is the one time they're coming to Darlington this season, because this track is so hard to drive. It is nothing like any other racetrack that we're going to see on the schedule this season. It's just so vastly different in the way you drive it and how each end is just different than the other. So it's going to be a hard one, and I feel like this is going to be a race where the best drivers really show up at the top.
And this is a track that rewards those who are so disciplined in tire saving, disciplined in handling the race cars. But even then, some of those most experienced drivers are not privy to the chaos that can happen here, especially off turn 2. And countless times we've seen those big drivers be taken out at moment's notice, and you find a new driver at the forefront of the conversation. Well, speaking of conversation, someone who took center stage 1 week ago at Talladega Superspeedway was Lance Hill for Stonks Motorsports. Took the victory on the white flag lap, beating Brandon Hawken in the tri-oval, and he joins us now in the broadcast booth. Lance, first of all, welcome. Congratulations off the victory. Maybe you're still feeling the high off of the W from last week, but how do you bring that momentum from Talladega and take it into a place like Darlington?
Really, I don't know. It's really two different tracks. Darlington is probably the hardest track on the schedule, in my opinion. And Talladega, it's a super speedway, so really it's one of the tracks that anything can happen. So, really don't know how to try and continue the momentum. Darlington's probably not one of my best tracks, so it's kind of it kind of sucks that it's right after we win. So it kind of I'm worried it ain't gonna ruin my momentum, I hope, but we're gonna still go out here and push for whatever we can get out of it. And yeah, I really don't know.
We've talked a lot in the booth about the learning curve for drivers with this next-gen car, but obviously Darlington in the way that it's so difficult, it's so tough, you don't visit it that often, that it's hard to really get a grasp on it. Over the course of practice and through the qualifying session that we're seeing right now, what notes have you taken so far on track, either from your own experience or some of your teammates taking in laps too?
We was trying some different gearing throughout the practice, like with different gears to use. We really learned that, I don't want to give away secrets, but we learned that the gear we were using definitely wasn't the right one through 1 and 2. And in practice, we gained a lot of speed after making the changes we made. So I'm kind of hoping that carries over into the race. We'll really just see what has to happen there. But I'm really hoping the changes we accustomed to and kind of come to there at the end makes a difference in the race and changes our speed. But with the Xfinity car differences between this car, we really got accustomed to how those cars drove, I guess you can say, last season. And now we're back in this car again, so now we kind of have to learn how to drive this car compared to how that car drove. So I feel like it's a big learning curve again.
Well, hopefully the perseverance and those adjustments throughout practice and now qualifying could help come race time and get you guys another victory, whether it's you or your teammate, AJ Green. We appreciate the time, Lance. Once again, congratulations on the W from Talladega 1 week ago, and good luck tonight at Darlington.
Appreciate it, guys.
That's Lance Hill, driver of the #1 Chevrolet for Stonks Motorsports, as he takes the track alongside the rest of the field. They've got qualifying on right now. Francisco, you've taken a look at the data on the weather. It is hot for qualifying in South Carolina virtually.
Yeah, this is a pretty hot afternoon here in Darlington Raceway, just past 4 o'clock in sim, but it is now the summer months, if you will, on our schedule. We're in the middle portion, so it is the summer, and the track temp in the triple digits, 113 recorded at the beginning of the qualifying session. So it just goes to show that these guys are in very challenging conditions. It is not easy whatsoever.
It is really tough, Keelan, and from the moments that you've driven Darlington in the sim, I know it's necessarily not your favorite track, but it is for the audience that can be polarized from a track like this, whether they really love the challenge or, in the case of not liking this track at all, they seem it as a bit of a nuisance. How do you feel Darlington drives as these guys take on qualifying for as difficult as it is?
There's just no real track to compare it to, Kenneth. Any other track on a sim, you can find a comparison, like Kansas and Vegas or Chicago. You can all find comparisons with those, but Darlington, there's really nothing like it. And turn 1 and 2, I'd say, I don't know what it drives like, Kenneth. There's so much on throttle time going in and in the middle, and it drives kind of like the Daytona bus stop that we've been practicing all week, Kenneth, where you're off the throttle, then you're on it, then you're off it again. And 3 and 4, that's more of a traditional corner, but it's still pretty difficult to keep it off the fence and judge your entry right. And when the track is hot and slick for qualifying conditions like these guys are dealing with right now, it just makes it that much worse. As we can already see, our fastest qualifying lap right now is a second off what guys were running in practice. So just a 30-degree shift in temperature can kill a whole second on the racetrack with how slick it is and how much less grip you have than you had when the track temp was a little bit cooler.
And over the course of this race, I mean, we'll talk about how this track changes dynamically and how that will affect the time, how that will affect the tires, and most importantly, the strategy, which even though we've seen races end in overtime here in seasons past, we do have the sprinkle of strategy that goes into it, and the drivers really have to adjust at a moment's notice as we get down to tonight's race, which will be a lot of fun as we cover it throughout tonight. And we've got some pit road reporters too to tell you about the story of what the drivers are facing beyond just what's going on from the racetrack perspective. Well, we did mention that in a couple weeks we're going to go to Las Vegas. We're going to be All-Star Racing in Sin City. It's going to be technically the second time we visit the 1.5 mile speedway in the Nevada desert, but it will be the first time we see it in an on-points format. And here's how it all goes for the Season 7 All-Star Race at Las Vegas. 35 laps for an open race that'll take place earlier in the night. And you've got the automatic qualifiers there for the main race. But as for the open, you've got the top 3 finishers. You've got the next 2 highest in points that will qualify. And then whoever has the highest votes in the fan vote, which you can try and get that down. And if you want to vote for your favorite driver, get them into the main race. If they are not already qualified, you can go to 4wrracing.com or 4rideracing.com as a matter of fact, or 4WR Racing on X. And let us know which driver you want to see in the All-Star race if they are not already qualified from the criteria that you see on the top right of your screen. Again, that All-Star race is January 29th, 2025. It'll be on a Wednesday night. We'll adjust our coverage and let you know the details as we get closer to that All-Star race, which will add some playoff points to the drivers who win and succeed in the All-Star race, so that'll also be a lot of fun. There's also someone in this very booth right now that is qualified for the All-Star race. Francisco won the pole at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, technically meaning he is now qualified to get into the All-Star event at Las Vegas. Francisco, you've got a paint scheme to show off for what you're going to show out in Las Vegas in a couple weeks.
Yeah, the plan wasn't to run that All-Star race, but the pole at Indianapolis definitely gave me the opportunity to just jump right in and make it a possibility, and I'm certainly going to at least make the most of it and just have some fun with it. And there you see, this is technically a throwback now because I haven't seen many in stores anymore, and that is the Oreo Coca-Cola Zero Sugar paint scheme for the holiday season that they just ran this promotion for in the fall and winter.
Hey, Killen, I'm gonna need your review on this because this is a really nice paint scheme. A lot of people have mixed opinions on Coke and Oreo rather. Coke and Oreo together. A lot of people have differing opinions on whether it's good or whether it's not. What do you think about it?
I mean, the scheme's great, Francisco. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it looks beautiful. You're going to look great out there on the racetrack. But I can't get behind the drink, Kenneth. I don't know. It's because, I worked at that grocery store for nearly 2.5 years, and I tried it one time. It was on one of my breaks, and it was a 20-ounce bottle. I mean, the first few sips, that was pretty solid. I mean, it's what you'd expect with the Coke and Oreo mix. But once you get to the bottom of the bottle, I can't drink any more of it, Kenneth. It gives me a headache. I mean, I guess Francisco likes it, though, don't you?
Yeah, they're fun to drink. They do have a couple more on those sizes that you probably would prefer, the little 7-ounce mini cans. I think those would probably suit you better.
Yeah, I mean, once I got to the bottom where all the flavor was settling and all that, I couldn't do it, man.
Well, I've never tried it. I actually wanted to go to a store and get a bottle of Coke and Oreo together. I didn't want to buy the entire stack of cookies because if you don't like them, what are you going to do with the rest of them? Like, you're going to give them to somebody? How are you going to get rid of it? What kind of efficacy is there in wasting Coke and Oreo cookies together? But trying the soda, I wanted to, couldn't do it, but I've heard there's a weird aftertaste and there's a weird mix of, you feel the Coke, but you also feel the Oreo in there too. I don't know if I'd be a big fan of it, but that is the scheme that Francisco will be running for the All-Star race. He'll be representing us at the KBueno Racing Network, and yes, before you ask, we do drive on the racetrack. Can't tell you that we're as good as the Coke Series, though, but we put in our best effort. We're going to be doing that this weekend with the iRacing Daytona 24. Qualifying has just come to a close from the virtual Darlington Raceway, so let's get a look at what your field will look like when we take the green flag in just several moments from the track. Too tough, too tame. And on the pole for the drop in the hammer starting grid, it's going to be Brandon Hawken in the number 98 Chevrolet. He'll be on the front row, leading the field to the green flag alongside the number 28 of Jaden Porter, Season 5 champ in this series, will be on the outside of row number 1. On the inside of row number 2 is where you'll find Season 6 winner here, Craig Launslager, rolling off from the 3rd place position, and Lawson Peel very fast at these hard-to-drive tracks. Not a win here, though, at the Lady in Black. Going to try and make that number 1 in Season 7. Rookie Steven Maggio aims for win number 4 on the campaign. He'll roll off from 5th. And Season 5 winner from here, AJ Green, will roll off on the outside of row number 3, back in position number 6. Mikey Neal, the number 88 Chevrolet for Buckeye Racing, rolls off in 7th. On the outside, in 8th, the 8 car, Steven Stempian. We have a good story about the paint scheme there, too, in his Chevrolet on the outside of the 4th row. Fastest man in practice, Tristan Bailey, on fire with a Tabasco paint scheme on tap. Cody Kinsey on the outside rounds out the top 10, Francisco.
In 11th is going to be last week's race winner in Lance Hill, and alongside of him is going to be Tony Kivett. In our 7th row is going to be our in-race reporter, Juan Escamilla, in the number 41, with Curtis Kelly in the 71 alongside of him. Kyle Benson, who we talked to in the Drop and Hammer pre-race show, is going to be in the 15th position with rookie Kip Easley in the 16th spot. Ryan Pandiscio, sophomore driver, will be in the 17th position with Daniel Moore in the 77 and 18th. Kevin D'Elia and Eric Schaefer will be rounding out your top 20.
Back in the 21st position is rookie Nicholas Bauman from Connellsville, Pennsylvania. Craig Parks alongside him on the outside row. Christopher Bishop in the 42 machine rolls off in 23rd from Muncie, Indiana. Outside of him is Brandon Banks in 24th. Trevor Haley and Adam Alishire start 25th and 26th. Michael Newbraw back in 27th with league owner Tyler Murray to his outside in 28th. Dusty Applin, the rookie, in 29th with Craig Rowe to his outside. Timothy Cook, Eric Stewart, and Brandon Gillis round out the 33 car field.
That's your full field for tonight's race at Darlington Raceway. Could not show you there on the graphics. These are the old KBRN ATVO ticker graphics that we used to have for a couple years up until we revamped it recently. You'll be seeing those graphics a little later, but it's nice to turn back the clock and throw things back quite a bit. Let's get down trackside and give you our in-race reporter for tonight's race. That is the Indianapolis native, Juan Escamilla for Dark Horse Motorsports. Juan, you got a copy with us?
Yeah, I got a copy.
All right, Juan. Well, you've had a tumultuous season. Darlington is as tumultuous as it gets. What do you try to expect in this race, and what do you try to learn here in the first stint tonight?
Well, Kenneth, I'm gonna be honest. This is the first time I ran this car at this track in a race situation. So, I really don't know what to expect. But I know that the first half of the race is just not putting the car in a position where you get damaged and stuff. So just not pacing per se, but like controlling your pace, controlling the unnecessary risks that you might take, and then try to save that right front tire as much as you can, because this car likes to plow if you don't get the line right. So yeah, I wouldn't lie and say that I wasn't nervous. I'm a little bit nervous, but I think just controlling everything and just dialing everything down to like a 6 at the start and working my way up if need be.
Well, Juan, we appreciate the time. Hopefully we'll be able to talk to you over the course of the race. Best of luck out there at Darlington tonight.
All right, thank you.
That's Juan Escamilla, the rookie for Dark Horse Motorsports, going to be taking on this race from the 13th starting spot in his Dark Horse Ford Mustang. He's got a lot of drivers around him with very colorful paint schemes. We'll talk about that in just several moments, but let's toss it down to our weather reporter, Eli Comerford out of Salina, Kansas. Will give us a look at what we should expect in the skies tonight. Eli?
Thank you, Kenneth. Yeah, it's a beautiful setting here at Darlington Raceway. Clear skies, air temp of around 81 degrees. We got around 9-mile-an-hour wind to the east, which will affect drivers heading into turn 1. Other than that, to note, the race is going to end up at night, so expect cooler temps, track temps. may bring some handling adjustments, but overall perfect conditions for a dance with the lady in black.
It's going to be beautiful tonight. Thank you, Eli, so much. Hopefully we'll hear from you a little later on in this race. It is a picturesque sunset night in South Carolina, and that's best as you can ask for, Francisco, here at this type of track, because it is beautiful when you see that sun come down. It's quite of a challenge when you're behind the wheel of the race car, but it's still a lot of fun regardless.
And let me tell you, it's awfully hot on those grandstands too, even while the sun is still out. It is beating down on those main grandstands, and you can work up a sweat just by sitting there. But I know these guys behind the wheel, they're going to be in the comfort of their homes in this winter evening. It's probably below freezing in most of where the homes that they live in, but the temperature's about to get turned up here to triple digits like it was earlier in qualifying. Darlington, the most difficult track on our schedule. The pace car is going to make that left-hand turn. The field is going to be in the hands of Brandon Hawken and Jaden Porter. They're going to be the first two to creep up to the Geico restart zone with many throwbacks behind them. The field makes their way into the restart zone, and we are underway from the track too tough to tame.
It takes little time to go single file here at Darlington. Such a narrow racetrack to maneuver around, but thankfully no problems in the opening lap as Brandon Hawken takes control by the tune of 2 car lengths over that Amp Energy Chevrolet. Jaden Porter, that Dale Jr. throwback right behind. Lawson Peel, Craig Lounslogger, Steven Maggio, the top 5, and already a peek to the inside. Maggio underneath Craig Lounslogger for P4.
Making that inside is going to be difficult to work. The entire night you see is going to make a little bit of contact with Craig Lounslogger. The outside just gets a lot of momentum around these corners, and if you can pin the car to the inside, it's going to be a difficult pass.
And it's going to be down low where Maggio could make his money. Lounslogger backs out, but the real problem, Keelan, is the traffic that builds up behind you. You can make a pass at Darlington. Although it takes a little longer than a lot of other tracks, it is possible. The only catch-22 to the solution is that if you find yourself in a side-by-side battle, you can easily stack up the traffic behind you. One mistake and your race turns around in an instant.
Yeah, there's only so much racing surface here that you can use between the bottom apron and the top side of the racetrack, maybe 3 cars max. And that's if you're really pushing it down to straightaways. In these corners, you're going to get too wide, and that's about all you can do. And this is one of those tracks where you can really hold up the car behind you. And in these next gens, that is something that can be really easy to do. As we see AJ Green, Season 5 winner, to the inside of Season 6 winner, Craig Lautenslager. He's going to get around him. Steven Stempian also will get around the 13 car, who started this race in the 3rd position, who has already slipped back to 7th. Not the fastest start for him in these opening 5 laps.
Looks like the bleeding starting early for the Craig Lounslogger machine, sponsored by Geico tonight. Steven Stempian right on his coattail will peek to the inside. That's Mikey Neal there. Stempian went by, but it's Tristan Bailey and Lance Hill, last week's winner at Talladega, in the fray as well. And while Craig was not exactly the standout last time we were here at Darlington, led only 8 laps on the way to the victory under strategy, he found himself there at the end. And for Lounslogger, he likes these types of tracks that are a little more tough to handle, that require much more of a challenge to get used to. Lounslogger has won a race here at Darlington before that Season 6 race, and it was in another series in 4-wide history. Definitely likes to race here as much as possible, and he's holding on in front of Mikey Neal. Brandon Hawken continues to lead. He's extended his gap to almost a second over Jaden Porter here, Francisco. But this is normal for Darlington to see the amount of separation early just because of how each driver likes to drive this track, and obviously the skill gap between all of them. It's no surprise that Brandon Hawken's at the front of the field. But as for everyone else being single file, certainly makes sense when you think of it's only 7 laps of 147. We've got a long way to go.
We do have a long way to go, Kenneth, but easily drivers will run out of patience. That's just the nature of race car drivers. And just looking a little bit further back, Mikey Neal now has gotten by Craig Lautenslager. Now the 35 of Tristan Bailey's gotten his way around, so Lautenslager is now down to the 9th position, has given up a couple of positions to several cars around him. We see a train a little bit further back. That's going to be behind, I believe that's Cody Kinsey. For most of the cars are stacked up behind this group. So from there on back, you're probably going to see most of the action in this early part of the run, where most of the cars are still kind of sprung together as the top 10 are kind of spreading apart.
And when they are as clustered as you can see them in this mid-pack, like I said earlier, one mistake can easily dock you several positions on the racetrack. As we're about 9 laps into this race from Darlington Raceway, Keelan, you've got some keys for us on what it's like to drive here and what the drivers need to get to victory lane tonight.
Got to think about attrition at this racetrack, Kenneth, because this is one of those tracks where your arms get tired. It's a simulator. People say it doesn't have any tear on you, but the way you are wrestling with this race car around, it's going to tear you up. You're going to be tired. You're going to want to be done with this race about 20 laps in. Watch each end of the racetrack, because turns 1 and 2 are vastly different from 3 and 4, and these guys are already learning it here early in this race. And avoid mistakes to the best you can. You're going to bounce off the wall once or twice tonight. It's about limiting those smacks and limiting the damage, and manage your tires. We say it every week because it is oh so important. When you're running 50 laps on a fuel tank, those tires are going to matter, and the better you can manage them early in the run, the better off you're going to be 50 laps into the run.
So beautiful there with the Keelan's keys to the race is Lawson Peel. It appears is hunting down Jaden Porter here for second in the entry to turn 3. But to get a little more perspective on the field entering this Darlington race, why don't we toss it down to pit road, our first toss-up to Charlie Byer. Charlie, what you got? All right, well, it looks like we don't have Charlie right now. We'll get to him later if we can, but the battle for second continues on. Lawson Peel to the inside of Jaden Porter, who just brushed to the outside barrier. That's that typical Darlington stripe that you see everyone talk about in the NASCAR world when they come here. Lawson Peel taking away second, and look further back, Francisco, even more moves. Steven Stempien to the inside of Steven Maggio for P4.
Yeah, they kind of ran down Jaden Porter, who got out to second place, but it looks like in the last couple laps is kind of struggling for some consistent pace, because now he has the likes of Steven Maggio, Steven Stempien, AJ Green is also showing up to the mix, so all of this are going on almost 3 seconds behind Brandon Hawken already.
And as they continue to battle Keelan, it's going to be no surprise that they'll continue to fall back from Hawken, who last time we were here led 127 laps in that 146 lapper. He was easily the most dominant driver of the night. It was only pit strategy that took him out of the fight. It wasn't necessarily a track position or the fact that he didn't have any raw pace. He can show everyone that he can easily dominate races like these, but it's finding that last puzzle piece for what, in Hawkins' sense this time around, could be his 4th win of the campaign.
And he's trying to start that championship push. It's already been started. A shot at it, a shot at the playoffs. It was all about if he could make enough races. He has been really trying to do that as the season progresses, and he has showed us why he is the guy to beat week in and week out because of runs like this. Already 3 seconds out front. He just put another 2/10 on Lawson Peel this last time around, and we're only 15 laps in. So he's showing why he's really good, and he's trying to get that sour taste out of his mouth from last year when he dominated and couldn't quite close it out.
Think about it. 2 car lengths at the start of this race turned into nearly 3 seconds off turn 4 and crossing the line for lap 16. He's definitely put himself in his own league. May encounter some lap traffic if we continue on green flag racing as is. Left side of your screen, Brandon Hawken in his own zip code. Battle for position further back. That's Nicholas Baumann in a heap of cars, Francisco. That's Kip Easley and several others in the battle for 15th on back.
Yeah, these guys have been going at it for a handful of laps, just unable to get away from each other. Juan Escamilla was trying to navigate his way through, but got stuck behind. I believe it was Cody Kinsey and the likes of that. And there's Escamilla actually getting the wall just in front of Kip Easley. That's going to hurt him here off of turn 4.
And it'll stack up the single file lane of cars. All of them going to try and do what they can. Our in-race reporter is in there, Juan Escamilla, in his number 41 Dark Horse Mustang. Kind of at the front of this, trying to make sure he can hold on to the barrier. But even then, you've got other guys, Tony Kivitt, Cody Kinsey up to 13th. I mean, so many names that are up there that could easily take charge and make something happen in that certain situation. All those guys fighting for mid-pack spots. It is a hefty group. Keelan Belcher, when you look at it, led here by Kinsey sitting 13th, as I mentioned, and this pack is only continuing to grow, snake trailing down to turn 1.
Yeah, Kivett, Escamilla, Easley, Nicholas Bauman back there, Eric Schaefer. It is just a huge pack right here. And this is what we talked about earlier in the show. Almost trouble back there with, I believe that was Eric Schaefer. Almost trouble. But this is what we talked about earlier in the show, Kenneth, about how one guy can get up there and really just hold everybody up because it's so difficult to pass here at the track, too tough to tame. So it's one of those deals where it's going to be really hard to get around a car in front of you. If you're just barely faster, it's going to be hard to make the pass. You really need a real shift in speed here and a tire difference. That's if we get some green flag stops, that's really going to be the tell that we have on who has the faster cars out there. But I mean, Kinsey, he's holding his own. It's not like he's completely holding up this pack. He's running pretty good laps himself there in the 13th position.
And he's got a beautiful race car to go with it. Lot of different colors here at Darlington Raceway tonight. That's because it's the throwback race here in this edition with the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, and Cody Kinsey trying to channel his inner Kurt Busch. This is his scheme from 2004, the championship-winning car at Homestead of Miami Speedway, and that was Kurt Busch's first and only NASCAR Cup Series title to date. That was a beautiful gold and black Ford Taurus that he ran back in the day, Francisco. This is one of the many schemes that we have, throwing back to different eras in NASCAR history. It was fun to start with Cody Kinsey, who's leading this group in 13th right now.
And it's a great nod to, obviously, the Homestead Miami Speedway, where Kurt Busch had that tire go away from him and still managed to recover to win the championship away from Tony Stewart and Jeff Gordon in an amazing effort. Despite Tony Stewart doing everything he could to win the race and all that, there's just not enough points in it.
Well, I was watching everything behind this car of Kinsey in that Kurt Busch 2004 throwback, and Eric Schaefer, Keelan Belsha, is all over the place. He's one of the better drivers here at Darlington, but right now he's having a struggle getting this car settled nicely in P17 as it goes.
Yeah, he is a former winner here at the Darlington Speedway in the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, but like I said, you can be as experienced as you can be here at Darlington and still not be able to have that perfect success as he sits back there in the 17th position trying to make something work right behind Kip Easley, tucked in right there. It's a good-looking 3-car, Kenneth. That 3, a throwback to Dale Earnhardt's 1987 Wrangler Monte Carlo. You see it there at the Daytona Speedway.
That's a beautiful looking race car, and several years where Dale Sr. had gotten so close to winning that Daytona 500, couldn't do it until 1998, but the yellow and blue Wrangler car are just a staple of NASCAR history. I mean, when the 1987 cars were unleashed in iRacing, they used that generic Dale Sr. Wrangler paint scheme from 87 to enter the car into the sim. So great stuff there for Eric Schaefer, using the 3 number, obviously in honor of Dale Sr. and all that he brought to the sport of NASCAR. Here's a check back in with the race leader, over 3.5 seconds away from second place Lawson Peel, who has since pulled away a bit from Steven Stempien. And Steven messaged me earlier today, Francisco, and told me, watch out for me, basically, as he's one of the better drivers here at Darlington, and so far already proving it, making some decent progress in the opening 25 laps, and he's up to the podium spot and chasing down the second place driver, Lawson Peel.
Well, we know Steven Stempien is a highly skilled driver, just hasn't had the luck go his way in a lot of these races, got the win at Daytona, but is trying to do everything he can to stay in the top section in points to have that win carry over into the playoffs, and a run like this here at Darlington could be all he could need to be able to just solidify that a little bit more. A highly skilled driver at a difficult racetrack is a recipe for a good run.
Oh, and he's into the outside wall there. One mistake made in the dirty air for Lawson Peel in front of him, and there go the 2 BBR cars in front. Jaden Porter, Steven Maggio, as Stempien gets another lick of the outside wall and hemorrhages back to 5th.
Right when he got a little bit of momentum, Kenneth, he got up on the last step of the podium and was running down Lawson Peel, but these next gens, that dirty air that gets produced off of that car in front of you can just mess everything up on corner exit, especially at a track at Darlington where the corner exits just close so much on you. It's just one of those deals where it's really hard to negotiate. As Jaden Porter in the 28 machine trying to make a move on Lawson Peel for second. Peel floats up the racetrack, gets into the fence a little bit, and Jaden Porter goes by him for the second position. Him in a 2010 Dale Jr. throwback. Good-looking race car for the 28.
And how about the counteract from Jaden Porter after losing second place to Lawson Peel and falling as far back as fourth? He's easily gotten his momentum back and the swagger as well. He's pulled up into second, still has a lot to work over if he needs to get to Brandon Hawken for the race lead, but it's a good start, and he's bringing his teammate Steven Maggio with him, Francisco, who was on the pole last week at the Talladega Super Speedway alongside Brandon Hawken. Maggio, who's already won 3 races in his rookie year, mentioned several weeks ago in an interview I did with him that Jaden is one of those drivers always to look out for. He's knocking on the door, and he said that Jaden easily could go out and grab a win. Tonight could be the difference, and both of those BBR cars mega fast early on.
Well, he's a former champion of the series, Kenneth, so I would hope that he was someone that could go out there and get those race wins from time to time. It's not been as easy for him as say, other drivers, but he's always there and putting himself in position. Eventually, you get an opportunity to make something of it and go back to victory lane. He won at Dover Motor Speedway in the playoffs last season, but it came at the hands of an Ethan Fonseca Moreno post-race penalty. Jaden Porter wants to cross the finish line in first, which he has not done since all the way back in season 5 from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. And somebody who's running the exact same throwback as him is a fellow friend of his, Mikey Neal, running in the 9th spot, battling with Kyle Benson. Those two have the exact same paint scheme.
Yeah, and Mikey tells me that it's not exactly planned between those two. They sort of found out in the Discord when they both published their paint schemes and said, hey, that looks a little familiar, but they are throwing back to the exact same scheme of Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s 2010 Amp Energy and Mountain Dew car. So when I put it into the graphics here in OBS, I put 28/88 because not often, Keelan, do you see two drivers have the exact same paint scheme, but it tells you just the influence that Dale Jr. has on the modern NASCAR fan base, what he's done with iRacing, and also what he's just done for the sport in general. We've got two drivers throwing back to one of the all-time greats in the sport.
I mean, you think of NASCAR, you think of the Earnhardt family, and Dale Earnhardt Jr., he was a polarizing figure all through the 2000s and 2010s, just carrying the legacy that his dad left behind for him. And a lot of these fans getting into the sport, the younger guys, they all catered towards Dale Jr., and we start to see that in the 4-Wide Racing Series with the throwbacks that these guys crack out. As him and Kyle Benson, they have been working on each other for several laps now for that last spot in the top 10. Kyle Benson going to get around him, and I'm biased. That's one of my favorite throwbacks in the field, Kenneth, that Jason Leffler throwback. That's a good-looking 38 car right there.
It's a beautiful car, and Murray to Motorsports, Francisco, was one of the first teams that actually introduced their throwback schemes, and Tyler was sending them out to me. And Tyler, by the way, did paint most of the throwbacks you're seeing here tonight, so he's courtesy of this entire throwback night with all of the drivers in the field. But this is exactly what Kyle Benson is throwing back to. He's got dude wipes on the race car, but it's in the font of the Great Clips machine that Jason Leffler drove in the NASCAR Nationwide Series with the Toyota Camry, the late Jason Leffler. And it's a gorgeous paint scheme, Francisco, that honors one of those drivers that isn't necessarily talked about as much, but somebody who did play a big role in the early 2010s side of the sport.
Yeah, you're right about that, Kenneth. I remember watching some truck races back in the early 2010s, and that name kept popping around, Jason Leffler. I remember he had some good runs there, particularly when racing against Kyle Busch, and just an excellent memory just from when I first started watching the sport. It's really welcoming just thinking back to that time, and that's got to be my favorite throwback right there on your screen right now. It's Craig Lautenslager's throwback to Max Pappas. By no means am I necessarily a Max Pappas fan, but I appreciate the find in this one.
I mean, this is a mythical pull right here. The Geico Toyota Camry in the COT era that Max Pappas drove for, what was it, Germain Racing back in the day. That they had Geico all the way until, I believe, about 2018 with Ty Dillon. And Craig is in the middle of a huge battle. Tristan Bailey, his teammate in front of him, leads this charge from 6th on back. But it's Lautenslager, AJ Green, Kyle Benson, and then that aforementioned Amp Energy car of Mikey Neal back in P10, Keelan. This is where they're going blow for blow in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, Green kind of slipped back and lost some track position there, and it really just stacked everybody up right here. Tristan Bailey was the first to get around him, and Kyle Benson trying to make a position up on him. That for the 8th spot right there. And his dude wipes machine to the inside of AJ Green, riding in 1 and 2. But Francisco mentioned it earlier. Never mind, I was going to say it's going to be hard to make a pass on the bottom. But I guess with these tires where it gets a little bit easier because the speed differences are a bit greater as AJ Green continues to slip back and He must have not seen my keys to the race, Kenneth. I said manage your tires, and I mean, sometimes you just burn them up.
Well, sometimes the drivers don't have our broadcast up on the KBueno Racing Network, so they don't know until they find out, and it's too late. But here's your race leader, Brandon Hawken, leading the race by 2.5 seconds, has led every single lap from the drop of the green, and he continues to lead the command from the track too tough to tame. We'll take a short break and be right back, but you're tuned in to coverage of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from the virtual Darlington Raceway in Darlington, South Carolina.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the virtual Darlington Raceway. Coverage of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series is brought to you by iRacing. To get your sim racing career started today, hop onto iRacing.com. By TJ's Team. To learn more about the Foundation's mission to end pediatric cancer, go to www.morethanacape.org. And by Paul's Setup Shop. We've got a battle for the race lead. Brandon Hawken had a lead of over 4 seconds until Jaden Porter ran him down, and at the tick of lap 46, Jaden Porter, the first proper lead change from the track too tough to tame. Welcome back to our coverage on the KBueno Racing Network. We are now joined by Keelan Belsha, but a new member of our broadcast team emerges, Eli Comerford, who was our weather reporter at the start of this, but now joins us here. Keelan, what a pivotal change here in this race from Darlington. The BBR duo of Porter and Maggio have taken over as Brandon Hawken falls back on the long run.
And I was really curious when Porter got around him there if that would move Hawkins' hand into maybe going down pit road. I'm not sure how the fuel run is here, but I assume we got to be getting close to that pit window, and I'm sure everybody could go for some new tires. So I'm really curious if Hawkins decides to duck off anytime soon now that Porter has gotten around him. But Jaden Porter, he has saved his stuff perfectly as he drove all the way back from a 5-second deficit and took the lead over. I don't know if Hawkins just burned his stuff up or what, but Steven Maggio also made the comeback run, and now he's going to try to make a move on Hawken as it's a top 3 pull away. Lawson Peel 6 seconds back from the lead in 4th. As it's the top 3, they are gone.
And Eli, I mean, you look at the balance and the discipline from a driver like Jaden Porter in that moment, because the first part of this race, he fell back through traffic. He had drivers passing him left and right, but he had it all in the mindset that he would come back later and end up in a position where he could lead this race, and he does so here as Maggio steps to the inside of Brandon Hawken. It's going to be side by side, door to door in 1 and 2. Still no deciding winner. Maggio pushes through to second place.
Right, Kenneth, and you mentioned that, and that just shows the resilience in a driver like Maggio, and that's something that is key to, you know, being able to execute races, be there at the end. You have to have confidence in yourself. You have to have confidence in your strategy and your plan, and obviously he's showing that he has just that today.
And we've got pit stops on the right side of your screen. Adam Alishire came in about a lap ago. There's league owner Tyler Murray that's in this time by. So while Keelan, you had sort of alluded to it, we're finally in that zone where we could see drivers take pit road in the attempt to undercut, or in the case for the leaders, overcut the strategy. There's the left side tires going up for Tyler Murray in his AOL car inspired by Jeff Green back in the day. And he's going to come out of pit road this time by. Adam Alishire is also back out on the track. He is 2 laps down in 28th, but he has found himself in. The same goes for Kip Easley. His Drinking Bros Chevrolet takes pit road this time by. And the question I've got for you, Keelan, before we toss it down to pit road, is what is next for those in the lead?
I think if you're Jaden Porter, you're doing everything perfect right now, and I'm not making a move till Brandon Hawken behind me does, because he seems to be the faster car on the short runs, but 30 laps into the run, Jaden Porter seems like the car to beat. So it really just depends which situation you're in, which hand you have, if you're the guy falling off or if you're the guy that just made the pass for the lead. If I was Brandon Hawken, I would have pit about 5 laps ago when I got past, but obviously I'm not Brandon Hawken, and I don't have 3 wins in a 4-wide racing series, so I'm not going to be the one to judge right there, but he has fallen back to 2.2 seconds off of Porter. Kyle Benson coming in this time. He just announced over the radio. Eric Schaefer in as well, so pit road stops are happening here under green flag. Lawson Peel in the 12 car also in.
For more on what's happening on pit road, we've got Charlie Byer down there. Charlie?
Guys, I think 4 fresh Goodyear tires and a full tank of fuel is going to be the strategy here. We're going to have 2 projected pit stops, assuming this race goes green all the way through. This is 1 of 2. Expect the next one at lap 1 at around lap 100. One thing to watch here is that pit road entry. We know that you're walking on eggshells. As you see this number 88 ducking in way to the inside in that neon car, jumping all the way to the inside to make that pit insinuator that he just passed. So it's going to be tough, but we're going to do this again before the race is over.
And that's the race leader, Jaden Porter, coming in alongside Brandon Hawken. Thank you, Charlie. We'll be tossing to you for more moments over the course of this race, but this is the pivotal toss to pit road. Jaden Porter up front with Brandon Hawken behind. Steven Maggio followed them into pit road as well about a lap or so ago. He's back in 15th, a lap down, and it's Cody Kinsey who's at the front of this field with Eric Schaefer right behind, and more drivers taking pit road. It looks like Cody Kinsey in this time by.
Everybody going down to pit road. Eric Schaefer in the 3 car coming in really hot there, as that will surrender the lead over to Steven Stempien in the 8 machine. Here comes Porter cycling off of pit road in the 28 in front of Hawken by a few car lengths. We'll see how those guys race it out as this night continues and this run continues. Still yet to have our first yellow of the race. Jaden Porter should be net P1, but here comes Maggio. They're going to be side by side. That could be the battle for the lead here. Maggio's going to clear him, jumping him on pit road.
For the proverbial race lead, Maggio is by, but Hawken and Porter have the freshest tires by at least a lap or 2, so there could be an easy difference with Darlington being as abrasive as it is. Steven Stempien on the right side of your screen, the current race leader. He's stayed out for all 55 laps in this race. Tristan Bailey and Mikey Neal right behind him in 3rd and about 4th, but they're entering pit road now. Battle once again to the inside, and the bottom alley is Jaden Porter looking for the top spot. Can't do it. Maggio holds control, Eli.
Maggio holding steady. Obviously, with him in his mirror, obviously not something that he wants to see, but the confidence, like I stated earlier, is obviously showing as he continues to lead coming out of 2.
It's a beautiful jump for both of the KBueno Bueno Racing cars. One of them a Toyota, one of them a Chevrolet. And, you know, a couple months ago, they had asked Francisco and I what our actual manufacturer is for the team. And we're kind of back and forth on Toyota and Chevy. They seem to be content running both. And Steven Maggio right up ahead. He's got the net race lead. He takes it away as Steven Stempian and Michael Newbraw come down pit road. A look on board from Maggio's Toyota and Keelan. Jaden Porter is not giving up on the fight.
Porter right behind him. On board with Porter on the right, Maggio on the left, courtesy of Charlie Beyer Photography. I love these camera angles, Kenneth. These just really get to show you what these guys are doing, what lines they're running. We'll see if Porter gets out of the wake of that car in front of him, any or not. But at a different track like a Charlotte, maybe it's a little bit easier because there's multiple lines you can run. But here at Darlington, there's really only one line that you have to be committed to. As our points leader, Jaden Porter, still winless on the season. Maggio sitting back there 8th in points with 3 of them to his credit. But that does not mean that his teammate is going to roll over for him by any means, Kenneth. These guys race as hard as anybody.
And for Jaden, I mean, he's as hungry as anyone. He's picked up a top 10 streak over the last 3 races. That includes a top 10 at a chaotic Talladega race, 4th place at Indianapolis. At Atlanta, picked up a P6 after starting in 2nd. He was always in the radar, but could never get to the front and capture the victory. And if he can do it here tonight in proper fashion, it would be a lot of fun. But Maggio, at the moment, holding his own. And you can never forget the Canadian Brandon Hawken searching for his 4th win of the season. Back behind them is Lawson Peele sitting P4 with Craig Lounslager rolling in the top 5 spot. We mentioned Lounslager's fall through the early portion of this race, but Eli, it seems like he's found his rhythm back, and that's the good thing about a place like Darlington. You may be off rhythm for the first several 10 laps or so. You fall back in traffic, but as soon as you find clean racetrack around you, that's when you build the muscle memory, and that's where you can be at your strongest.
Exactly, and he's just someone who's so good at, you know, being able to stick through hardship. You know, the car may not be handling the way you want, but, you know, he is someone who is able to eventually find it, and you see that right now in P5, you know, holding steady and hopefully make a few positions.
Look on board with Lounslager's Dark Horse Ford Mustang, sitting 5th, about 2 seconds away from Lawson Peele's machine. That's why you really can't see him on the screen. So far up ahead with all of the pit strategy. And as we look through the field, we continue to see more wonderful colors and more great throwbacks. And one of them is that 12 car of Lawson Peele, of course, the Season 4 champ. This is a Jimmy Spencer throwback to 1992. Wonderful shot for Lawson Peele there, a scheme that I haven't seen at all. It's a gorgeous throwback to Spencer back in the day, and there's Peele, who had been strong all race long, running in P4 as it stands. We had a battle for the race lead decided at this moment in time, and it was Jaden Porter making the move on Steven Maggio, and here's how he did it. Turn 2, always a trouble spot, always a transition point to make passes, and Porter just took advantage of the momentum when he found it, Keelan Belsha. That is a typical textbook pass to make at the Lady in Black, and Porter has control over 2 car lengths now.
Yeah, so it's a lot harder to get it done in the corner side by side, so when somebody makes a mistake in front of you, you have to take every opportunity you can. Porter, he seems to be faster than the 51, especially because he came into pit road. He's got a few laps fresher tires than Maggio, so he is, I think, really emerging as the car to beat here tonight in that 28, barring anything too terribly crazy, as the KBueno Racing drivers sit 1-2. Brandon Hawkins still lurking back there in 3rd. Maybe he's now in that position that Porter was earlier in this race to slowly back up his corner, save a bit of tire, maybe make a move back there. Peele, Lounslager rounding out the top 5, and then Kyle Benson back there in 6th. And Eric Schaefer, how about the drive for him as we see Hawken make a move for the 2nd position down into 3 and 4. Hawken gonna clear Maggio right there, and he'll slot himself into 2nd, barring a crossover here. He's gonna hang on to the spot right there, so move Brandon Hawken to the 2nd position. But how about Eric Schaefer in that 3 car? We talked about him earlier back in the 17th position. He's climbed his way up to 7th, Kenneth. He's on a bit of a run in that Wrangler machine.
Yeah, he was all over the place at the start of this race, remember? Sideways off turn 2 and turn 4, but as he's gotten his car settled in and got the first bit of pit stops through, Schaefer is showing why he is one of the better drivers at a track like this. He's the Season 4 winner at this very raceway, so you can never count out Schaefer, and he is definitely in targeting range for Kyle Benson and Craig Lauenslager, those two Murray Reedy Motorsports teammates, off in the distance with the lap car of Michael Newbraw right behind them to pit road and to Charlie Beyer.
And guys, I've got confirmation that this will be a 2-stop race as crew chiefs are reporting from the boxes. So on that last run, they didn't drain the fuel tank all the way empty, as they just went a few laps ahead of that third of the race mark. So we're going to get another round of pit stops around 100 to 105, assuming this race goes caution-free. So it could be close coming to the end if we get any yellows.
Thank you, Charlie. That is a big portion of the race that we'll talk about, that secondary pit stop if we stay green. And often we've seen this race come down to a long green flag strategy that turns into a caution fest, or vice versa. One caution always changes everything, as Porter and Hawkins settle at least within 2/10, and the Canadian is starting to pick up ground just like he was when he pulled away from the field at the jump of this race. Eli, if you see a driver like Hawkins in the rearview mirror, what are you thinking here behind the wheel?
Stay calm, stay collected. You know, a lot of drivers, they want to get caught in their head in moments like these, but you gotta understand you're really early in the race. There's a lot of racing left. The track is gonna get cooler. There's gonna be problems coming throughout the night. I think you just gotta run your best race, and try your best to not let him make a move. But if it happens, it happens. Regroup, and from there, move on throughout the race.
Beautiful onboard looks from Porter in first, Brandon Hawkin right behind him. And Steven Maggio, that smiley-faced red car, not too far in the distance. Any one of these drivers makes mistakes, and Steven Maggio can find himself there. Such a treacherous exit off turn 2, though, Keelan. And you see it there on board from both of these drivers, just how rough of a track surface it is. And in real life, it's made even worse by the fact that they repaved one section of turn 2, so you find a lot more grip in one section of the racetrack than you do of the rest of it in that very specific portion. And more often than not, you either have a kick of oversteer or a plethora of understeer that sends you up into the kink in that outside wall.
And being a guy like Hawkins stuck behind Porter's dirty air, it just multiplies it by 10, Kenneth. These next gens are just so different than any other NASCAR car that has ever been raced. So it does that to you. Just the wake of what that car in front of you will do just really disrupts it with the rear diffuser and everything, as we see a swarm of race cars back here. This is just outside the top 10, with Tristan Bailey in the 35 car, along with Nicholas Bauman in the 14. Those guys in the 12th and 13th positions battling up here. You see Steven Stempian. He's out in front of them by a few car lengths, but that's a couple nice throwbacks back there. You see Nicholas Bauman in the 14 machine throwing back to the Davey Allison 1992 Haviland Ford Thunderbird. It was part of that iconic Hooters 500 at Atlanta. Great race car right there.
Also part of that 1992 All-Star race where he crashed after getting the checkered flag and winning the Winston and the $1 million that go with it. And he's got the driver on the inside, Tristan Bailey, making the move officially for P12 as it stands right behind Steven Stepien, who seems to be in a pretty nice battle with a driver that finished on the podium last week at Talladega. This is Brandon Banks in his Ricky Rudd tied throwback right underneath the 48 of AJ Green in this move, Keelan, for P9.
That's one of my favorite throwbacks in the field too, Kenneth. That Darrell Waltrip throwback right there as he continues to try and make a move on AJ Green. Barely going to clear him in 1 and 2. Risky move right there. I don't know if I would have done that, but Banks, he does it right there, and he makes the pass work in that 5 car. Sorry, Ricky Rudd 1993 tied throwback, not Darrell Waltrip. I was thinking of Tristan Bailey way back there.
And there is the Dale Jr. throwback hunting right behind. Obviously, this is for lead lap position. When you were looking at Bailey and Nicholas Bauman, they had some lap cars sprinkled in the mix, like the 42 of Christopher Bishop and the 17 of Craig Parks. Beautiful look on the back end of Brandon Banks' Chevrolet for Drinkin' Bros Racing with our Charlie Beyer photography onboard camera. And Stempien had the hot hand early on in this race, Eli, sort of fell off over the course of the opening run, but I think here is where he finds that sweet spot in the mid portion of the run when the tires settle in and you've got a bit warmer temperatures on the shoes of the race car. That's when he's his fastest. He pounces for 9th and he's got the position over Banks.
Exactly, you said it as he makes the pass right there. He said earlier coming into this race, look out for him, as you noted earlier, Kenneth, and I think right now is when you start to take notice. Like you said, once he gets his groove, once he figures things out, that's when he's fast. And he said, look out for him. And Kenneth, I'm looking out.
Yet to get a top 10 since Richmond, where Brandon Hawken won the race in several overtime attempts. And he hasn't picked up a win since we started the season at Daytona. It's been a back and forth effort for Stempien on the way through. And hopefully he can regain that momentum, looking like another possible top 10 or race win if he places himself right in the next 70-odd laps, give or take, to the end of this race. Let's get a moment to check in with Lance Hill, our winner from Talladega 1 week ago after making that last lap pass on Brandon Hawken. And boy, he is in a ton of trouble, Keelan Belcher, right behind Nicholas Baumann. We just touched in with the Dark Horse Motorsports Mustang sitting 13th, and Lance Hill is in the thick of things right now.
Yeah, he's trying to make a move on Nicholas Baumann right there. That would be for the 13th position with the lab car up in front of them. He's thrown back to Rick Mast in 1994, a Skull Bandit of sorts, the black one up there. He's got a good-looking race car as he comes off that Talladega win. He was talking about how he was kind of nervous pre-race about this racetrack and about how it's not one of his favorites, but hanging steady in the top 15, I'd say that's a successful run at one of the harder tracks and one of the most talented leagues there is.
And there is our KBRN in-race reporter, teammate of Baumann, that's Juan Escamilla, who told us earlier in the show about his hesitations about Darlington. First proper try at this 1.366-mile egg-shaped oval. And right behind Curtis Kelly in the fight for 19th. Two of them with very good throwbacks from very different eras of the sport. Curtis Kelly throwing back to not too long ago, 2016. Denny Hamlin, the FedEx Toyota that he took to victory lane in the Daytona 500 by mere inches over the 78 of Martin Truex Jr. And then Juan Escamilla right behind with a Xerex throwback. That goes all the way back to 1992. The champion of that year, Alan Kowicki, as he continues to take charge, and I think off of Kelly's mistake when he'll go back to the inside and make this move for 19th. So a lot of the mid-pack battle still ongoing, even though we've taken a lot of opportunities to look at these two right here, Jaden Porter and Brandon Hawken. Eli, your thoughts on what the rest of this race could entail, because it's been green so far, but also very exciting.
Right, if it goes this way, then you're looking at those top three right now going out and, showing the class of the field, having a beautiful race. But you've got to account for that caution. We've gone green 81 laps like you've mentioned, but honestly, I'm not under the impression that we're going to stay green. So once that happened, depending on where we are on laps, all that type of things, that's when strategy comes into play, and that's when we get a little dicey and we could see some unique situations.
We're about to see a unique situation right here, because Brandon Hawken almost forced the nose kill into the outside of Jaden Porter's Amp Energy Chevrolet and just about made a move for the race lead, stepped out of line and lost all of his momentum, but he is there in the battle for P1 entering turn 3.
We're about to see why this track is so hard to make a move and pass at, because he is rolling the top really well, trying to get to his outside, but just not enough to make the move right there. The lap car of Tyler Murray pulling over for him. Just got to try to get close off of turn number 2. I think that's going to be his best opportunity. Just wrap the corner a little bit better and get up to his bumper. Maybe try to see if he can peek to the inside going into 3. That'll be his best shot at making this pass, but when you're tucked in right behind a guy like that, it's gonna be difficult. This track so hard to make a move and pass at unless that guy in front of you makes a mistake, and maybe that's all Hawken needs to do, put pressure on that 28 car, make him slip up and try to take that spot away.
But if you look back at the trends here at Darlington as Hawken pounces forward on Porter, you want to be in the second place car's position. You want to be the driver not leading the most laps, because the average winner here at Darlington leads the average of 17 laps. They're not always the most dominant car in the field, but Brandon has relinquished a bit of that control, and he's trying to grab it right back, but he cannot crack the Louisville, Kentucky native who stays put. But here comes Hawken, a peek to the bottom alley. Inside look for the race lead in turn 1, Keelan.
Even down into 1 and 2. Hawkins there trying to stay on his corner. Porter does a great job keeping it off the fence right there, and that's got to be frustrating if you're Brandon Hawken. That was your best opportunity right there. You got there door to door going into the corner, but Jaden Porter shows why he's a world-class racing driver right there. He just negotiates around 1 and 2 perfectly to put a bit of separation in between him and Hawken.
And as you were watching over the last several laps, Hawken has been changing his line in the effort to achieve some of that clean air on the front end of the race car and make a move. It's why he got so close in the first place to Porter over the last 3 trips around the speedway. It's just because he's been using the outside lane with all of that clean track in front of him near the outside wall, while Porter has remained loyal to the dashed line at the inside of the racetrack. Another heave from Hawken, unsuccessful there at the exit of turn 4. And Eli, this is turning out to be a classic right now between a seasoned veteran and a driver who's just getting his feeding together in the 4-wide series.
Exactly. If you're watching this at home, get your popcorn bucket because you are watching an incredible battle right here. Like Keelan mentioned, it is so hard to pass, and you are watching that right now, especially with lap traffic coming up. That could play a role in maybe being able to sneak by, get to the quarter, and maybe make a pass. But as you can see, as he gets out of line there, it is going to be difficult. But other than that, it's been great racing all night, and I'm excited to see, how this battle shapes up between these two as the race continues.
We'll talk about lap cars and just how hard it is to pass at Darlington. Proper example in your foreview. That was Brandon Hawken just getting around Curtis Kelly, the lap machine, and look how much it opened up between the 2 leaders. It was nearly half a second between those drivers. Now it crunches back down to about 2 car lengths and 0.2 of a second. But 1 lap car could make a big difference, especially if you catch up to them at the exit of turn 2 or turn 4. But then we bring in another factor, and that's third place, Steven Maggio. Over the last several laps, he's either been a 10th faster or around the same marker as the 2 leaders in front of him, and he'll encounter Curtis Kelly now. So maybe a bit of a slowdown here for Maggio's attempt to get around the fellow Toyota Camry at the same place that Hawken did at the exit of turn 4. But Keelan Belsha, he is there. So Hawken and Porter can do all the bidding that they like. As long as Maggio keeps it clean, he could be very well in this fight soon enough.
He could very well, especially when we get to this pit window. If he maybe goes for a short pit strategy, jump these guys right here, and if maybe a caution falls the right way, that shakes everything up in these top 3. As we see Porter slip up a little bit, Hawken to the inside. He's going to have a shot down the front straightaway here. Will that lap car be a factor? They're 3 wide down the front straightaway. Porter chasing him down, trying to pinch him. They float out, give each other room, side by side in 1 and 2. Can Porter make it stick on the top again? Oh, almost contact. Still side by side down the back stretch.
Porter was centimeters off the outside barrier and kept his ground, and Hawkins sends it in again, this time on the apron in turn 3. He'll try the entry once more, but Porter has the outside lane, and the Canadian cannot form a response. Jaden Porter, defensive masterclass at lap 91.
What a job by Jaden Porter, not letting him get there. Hawkins trying anything he can in his wheelhouse. Nothing going for him. You've got to think of how frustrated he is behind that wheel. We'll see if that creates any new moves, any new aggression out of that machine as he goes, dips down, nothing going for him. It's been the story of his race so far. Let's see if that can change, Keelan.
He's trying everything he can. You see Porter get a little squirrely off a 4 right there. It's one of those mistakes that Hawkins waiting on, because he had the nose even out front in turns 1 and 2 that last time, Kenneth, they were side by side, and he still couldn't make the pass. That is how defensive and good that Porter has been, ripping the top side of that racetrack. I mean, what more can you do if you're Brandon Hawken? I feel like you're doing everything right, putting your car in the right position, unless you can maybe get to the outside. Oh, that probably would have got the pass there if he could get there, but Porter is going to be defensive and not going to give that outside line up.
It just appears here that Porter has the best car on the exit of the corners. Brandon Hawken is able to send it faster through the center of the corner, specifically in 3 and 4. That's where he finds that open space on the outside lane. But if you're Hawken, you've exhausted all options. You're going to have to hope that either a caution flies or a lapped car gets in the way of the Kentucky native up in front, because it will not get easy over the course of the run as the tires wear down and as the strategy inches closer and closer. We're on the brink of lap 95, and in the home stretch of this race from the virtual Darlington Raceway, it's been a fun one and it's been clean from the jump. You won't want to miss a thing. We'll go side by side on the KBueno Racing Network and be back with more action of the 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from the virtual Darlington, South Carolina Raceway.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
My name is Francisco Bacallao, driver of the number 30 Celsius Toyota. I have a lot of things to balance between work, being a student pilot, and of course, having iRacing to do on the side. How do I manage all that? Celsius.
Celsius is the key to getting these things done for me. Whether it's at work, at home, while I'm driving, whatever. Whichever flavor you want, whichever one appeals to you best, that's the one that gets it done.
So if you want a good option to drink, choose Celsius.
Back live from the virtual Darlington Raceway in the 11th outing of the Season 7 4-Wide Racing TJ's Team Series, and our coverage on the KBueno Racing Network. Kenneth Bueno, Francisco Bacallao, Keelan Belsha, Eli Comerford, and Charlie Beyer with you throughout all of the coverage. It has been a great race, to put it simply. Jaden Porter has denied Brandon Hawken at any attempt to get back to the race lead as we approach our second round of green flag pit stops. Charlie, what do you have?
Pit window is officially open to get these drivers to the end of the race. It begs the question for the leaders, which one of those is going to come in first. But we got people like AJ Green. We got people like Kristen Bailey here coming into pit road, starting off this schedule. Close call there. But now is the time to get those 4 fresh Goodyear tires, get a full tank of fuel, and get to the end of this race, barring our caution.
We saw Steven Maggio take pit road not that long ago. The pair of Dark Horse Motorsports teammates are in Juan Escamilla, Trevor Haley. There's Adam Alishire and his Toyota Camry in on pit road. So the mid-pack is already answering their calls. It's the question of whether the guys in the top 3 start making their decisions, and we've got our first bit of it. Jaden Porter, race leader, is in this time by Francisco.
Jaden Porter makes his way into the pit lane before Brandon Hawken. That should give him the initial advantage here when they get onto the fresher tires. So we'll see if Hawken responds in the next immediate lap, or does he go to the full other direction and try an alternative strategy.
He'll come in this time. Hawken will remain out for another lap, and the driver right behind the Canadian is Pennsylvania's Kyle Benson, sitting in the top 10 for most of the night, Keelan, but now he's finding his place, albeit through a bit of the strategy and a heap of traffic behind him, but Benson is making it work.
He is sitting back there. Sitting back there in the second position. Almost got tagged by AJ Green getting down a pit road right there. Such a hard pit road to get on. Charlie mentioned it earlier. It's like walking on eggshells trying to get down pit road. So it's the toughest one, I believe, on the schedule here. As Benson hits pit road and we start to cycle through here.
Let's have a look on board with Craig Rowe. This was right behind the pitting Kyle Benson. And this got real close to those pit road attenuators. You get inches away from that barrier. And Francisco, we've seen drivers get into it before on green flag pit stops. Craig Rowe nearly got into it.
I think in one of the past KBueno broadcasts here at Darlington, I think it was Parker White or Blaze McKinney, one of them made contact with that barrier as the other one sped on pit road and opened up that race in that situation. Hopefully Brandon Hawkins not looking to make one of those mistakes here. He is fully staying out multiple laps after Jaden Porter, either hoping for a caution or trying something different to try and battle and get past that 28, and it might be the right move because following Porter was probably not going to help his case.
And to give you a scope of how long the drivers at the front have stayed out, you look at Brandon Hawken, he has been out 107 laps. I mean, actually not really 107 laps, but he's pitted. He's been a while, about 50-ish laps, give or take. Brandon Hawken is staying out. Brandon Banks is on pit road. Steven Stempian sits right behind Hawken in second place. And all in this, Keelan, in the attempt to pray that a caution comes out, or in the situation to where they beat the rest of the guys on fresh tires. They're hoping that they can beat Maggio and Porter as Stempian is trying to get down to pit road. He might miss the entry. He barely gets by.
Thank goodness. Such a hard pit road to get onto. Stempian 23 seconds back of our race leader Brandon Hawken, who is also down pit road. So we're going to see where he cycles out. Maggio is in front of Porter by about 3/10 right now. So we'll see when they come off pit road. They should get around Hawken pretty easily. It'll be how far back will Hawken be? And will he have time to run down those front two? He's going to be on about 5 laps fresher tires than former race leader Jaden Porter. But I don't see him anywhere, Kenneth. They may have a pretty decent gap on him.
He's about 4.5 seconds back, so he's got a lot of work to do. Plus, more lap traffic with Mikey Neal, Adam Alishire, and several others that are in the way of Hawken if he wants to approach. But this seems to be the mirror image, Francisco, of what transpired after the first round of stops. Porter sat behind Maggio, and it didn't take that long for the Kentucky driver to make a move on his fellow teammate. And it seems like the one-lap difference is more than enough to give the favor to Porter, who dives on the inside for the race lead in turn 3.
And let's see how much Maggio challenges it, because Maggio's still trying to go for win number 4 on the season, so he's not just going to pull over for Jaden Porter and let him have this one. So it's going to be a tough battle here between teammates to determine who wins this race. All the while, Brandon Hawken will surely close the gap.
Charlie Byer Photography on board camera with Porter. And look at all of the traffic up the road. Keelan, so much of them. 3 cars, and then you add one more further down the lane. But as fast as these two have been all night long, it will not take that long for them to catch up and make an attempted move. I believe it's Daniel Moore up the road of these guys. And we noted with Hawken and with Porter that one awkward moment around lap traffic could put you in a heap of trouble or could lose you a lot of time.
Certainly can. As we see Porter, he's going to get a heck of a run down the back straightaway here. He's not even going to have to worry about the lap traffic if he can get through 3 and 4 pretty well. Just about the same way he made the pass earlier in the race to get to the inside of Maggio. This time Maggio is going to have a little bit better defense than 3 and 4. They remain side by side. Porter's going to have the nose out front, and he's going to clear him before they get into turn 1 just barely. new leader, Jaden Porter.
Back in control of this race with about 35 laps to go. Keelan, you mentioned that pit road is oh so tough to get down here at Darlington. You got to make that sharp entryway to the left side and make sure you don't get into the pit road attenuators. Charlie Beyer, problems for Steven Stempian entering pit road.
Well, it's hard to say if there's even a problem. Steven Stempian, I watched him come down pit road, pull into his pit stall, and disconnect on the spot. So Steven Stempian, who was running second at the time as pit cycles were happening when he pulled into pit road, he is disconnected from the session, guys.
This will be another tough finish for the Boston, Massachusetts native, where last week at Talladega finished beneath the top 25, and the week before that it was a little bit worse there. I believe 28th he had finished at the virtual Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I believe that one of his last starts there, but Stempian has not been able to crack a top 10 in several months over the course of this series. Tonight, it is no different as Porter extends his gap to about 2 car lengths. Maggio finds himself with lap traffic right behind. The other Dale Jr. car is in this, Francisco. Mikey Neal is on fresher tires, and he will make this a bigger buffer between Porter and the teammate.
I swear that Steve Maggio looks at this and wonders if he's having some deja vu, because it's the exact same paint scheme going on right by him in the same part of the racetrack as Porter did. But Neal obviously is not for position, and neither is Adam Alexander. Those are both lap traffic inside the top 15. Mikey Neal's running great. He's in the 12th position, but he's a lap down, so it just goes to show the pace these leaders have had. You look throughout this running order, Lawson Peel, 4th place runner, is almost 9 seconds behind your race leader, and you have to go all the way back to 13.5 seconds, almost half a lap behind the leader, and that's where you have 5th place runners, Craig Lautenschlager, Kyle Benson battling each other.
They're 5th and 6th. Those two Murray Beatty Motorsports teammates, they're hand in hand all night long over the course of this strategy. Jaden Porter seeing a bit of double entering turn 1 with Mikey Neal, the exact same paint scheme right behind him. And there's a look at Brandon Hawken, where he sits about 1.7 seconds back of Jaden Porter on the left side of your screen. So enough, as we said it, Keelan, the lap traffic is playing a big role in all of this, coupled with the fact that Hawken did end up pitting a little later than Porter did by the tune of 4 laps. So the difference is great enough to separate them on lap time by at least 0.4 of a second.
But Hawken, he has been making ground up to 1.8 seconds now this time around, and that was battling Juan Escamilla and Trevor Haley, Escamilla's teammate, as he's getting around these guys pretty easily to this point as he tries to run them down. If he can keep this pace up, I think it's going to be a lot easier to get around Jaden Porter than last time, but we'll see if those tires even out by the time they get up to each other. We'll look back from Craig Lautenschlager back in the 5th position, trying to defend from Kyle Benson, his teammate. They battle for the final spot in the top 5.
Well, if we're talking about the main card with Porter versus Hawken, this seems to be the undercard for P5 on the racetrack. Lautenschlager and Kyle Benson, 2 of the long-tenured teammates in the series, going blow for blow there. You got around the lapped car of Curtis Kelly, and so they will remain nose to tail and separated not that far. And behind them is where you find Cody Kinsey. How about the effort for the 2004 Kurt Busch throwback car with Eric Schaefer and Tristan Bailey right behind? Got to give credit to these 2 Drinkin' Bros Racing Chevrolets for all that they did over the course of this race. Very quiet over the running, but Francisco making a big statement specifically for Kinsey, who hasn't found too much luck this year.
And at the most difficult racetrack at that, Cody Kinsey stepping up to the plate and delivering with an excellent top 10 run. If he's able to bring it home inside the top 8, it'll definitely be a great result for him. They're 8 seconds clear of P9 Tristan Bailey, so it's going to be, if he hangs on to it, a great result for Cody Kinsey, no matter where it ends up being. As you see, the pass for P5 is made. Benson gets past his teammate Lautenschlager.
Kinsey, the 31-year-old Floridian for that Drinkin' Bros Racing camp, actually in his 4th season of 4-wide competition, and as he is a Ford technician in real life, it's kind of funny to see him driving the bow tie in the Chevrolet, as 5th and 6th decided. Benson on by, and Brandon Hawken is slowly creeping up on Steven Maggio, and at this point, Keelan, the tire discrepancy is so large that Maggio's going to give his best fight and acts as the aggressor here to help his teammate Jaden Porter, but the tires difference is going to be too great to overcome at the end of it.
It is likely that'll be the scenario, but the more that Maggio can hold him off and the more this lap traffic can hold Hawken off, the easier those tires are going to get to the point where they even out as we close in on 25 laps to go here. there's not a lot of time left. So if Hawking gets around him, he can probably set sail. But if, say, Mikey Neal here in that 88, if he can defend for his Dale Jr. throwback buddy in the lead, that could definitely help his teammate Porter out a little bit, as they're gonna race hard here. We'll see if Neal can defend, but the longer that Hawken waits to make the move on Porter, the closer those tires are going to get to each other, and the closer they'll get on lap time.
And the lap time, yeah, will start to look a little bit more identical there. And as of the crossing of the start-finish line last time by, Hawkins set at 29.48. Porter, we couldn't really get the exact number on, as it puts him at 11 seconds, which isn't necessarily realistic, but the difference is definitely there between those two, and Hawken could face himself in the situation to where he uses his tires up at this point to the run to where he will not have enough juice left on his tires to get around Porter and make the move. How difficult was it, Francisco, for him to get around Porter, and he couldn't even do it in the last green flag run? Imagine this time by, you've got fresher tires, but you've got more traffic.
And you have to consider the fact that now the win is in the question. But look out what's in front of Jaden Porter. There's some heavy traffic. That's a battle for P10 between AJ Green and Nicholas Bauman, as the 98 of Hawken now door banging with the 88 of Mikey Neal down the front straightaway. Heavy traffic is going to influence this battle the next 2 laps.
And you encounter drivers who are on the lead lap fighting for points paying positions. The last thing they're going to do is let the leader by. They don't want to give up on this fight for the 10th spot. As Bauman peeks underneath, he'll look under turn 3. That blocks all of the lanes available in turns 3 and 4, which leaves Jaden Porter with a crucial decision as the two drivers make contact on turn 4. Green tank slaps the outside wall. Jaden Porter looks to the middle, and Brandon Hawken is right behind him. 3 wide in turn 1, peeking underneath, unsuccessful. Jaden Porter back to the point.
Oh, and he almost made contact with AJ Green. Green's actually going to get the worst of it and lose a couple of spots there. He wasn't really trying to make that move. It was more of a spook, as he's done at Charlotte Motor Speedway before, just trying to see if Porter would get caught out by that kind of position of his car. And for Hawken, it kind of works out for now. Now it's those two with clear racetrack. You have to look very far ahead to find the next lap car. So these two now get free racetrack with no pressure from behind for position to battle it out for the next 20 laps.
And if you're Brandon Hawken Keelan, you took notes on the last run. You were failed in the attempt to get by the race leader. What do you try differently now?
Well, after those first 50 laps, I think it's been all Brandon Hawken taking notes. He noticed how much he fell off in that first tire run. He took notes on how he couldn't get around Jaden Porter this last time, and he stayed out a little bit later on tires and has run him down, and I think that could be all the difference. All he may need is these tires to finally get up and clear him, but there he goes, almost in the fence right there. Had to let the gas pedal breathe a little bit right there. Had to back off of it. If he can get to the outside, we saw how well he rolls the center of 3 and 4. If he can just peek to the outside of Porter, I think that could be all she wrote. But if it's about getting to the bottom of him, I think he's going to have to do it soon, man. He's going to have to get there and get even with them and not be so conservative going into the corner. He's going to have to push it to get around Porter here, because you know how hungry Jaden Porter is for a race win.
Once more, Hawkins' best angle of attack is the center of the corner in 3 and 4 on this opposite end of the raceway that has a bit of a tighter radius, but it tapers off. Hawken is going to try the inside now for the apron, force Porter up high this time at the exit of turn 4, and this time they'll be much more even coming to the stripe. Hawken will side draft Porter down the entryway to turn 1, and he won't give up. A tough punch for Hawken down to the inside, and we are still even off of turn 2 as they get to it.
Shades of Chase Briscoe and Kyle Busch, they are absolutely giving each other no room. Hawken trying to fend for the side draft, and it's actually going to put him in a good spot. Is he going to dive it? Yes, he will.
He'll go down low for the lead, and Jaden Porter inches down low. Contact!
Ooh.
Getting into Hawken. They'll both save each race car, and Jaden Porter physically bullies his way back to the point.
Wow, what a move from Jaden Porter on the crossover. I don't know if he meant to hit him or not, but he certainly did so, and now he's back in the lead, and both of these guys pulling away big time from Steven Maggio. Now 3 seconds clear. Let's watch that again.
Hawkins sees the AMP Energy car in front of him, but it's not Porter, it's Mikey Neal who just got around as the two leaders made contact in turns 3 and 4. Hawken had the advantage, had the nose underneath to take the race lead, and thought he had the move completed, Keelan, but it's a crucial crossover attempt by Porter. I think he just had too much momentum in the center of the corner, and could not evade the contact. Beautiful save by Hawken, and Porter stays up front for now.
I've never seen Brandon Hawken get too mad, but I feel like he'd have a good excuse there. Obviously, that's not what Porter was going for. He wanted to gas it up and get to the inside of him, but he gassed it up a little too quickly, and instead of being side-by-side down the straightaway, he ended up just kind of running into the back of him, kind of like we saw at Charlotte with Colin Forrester and Stephen Maggio. I feel like it was a little similar in that sense, but it plays to the tune of Porter as he now starts to pull away by about a half-second last time around. And these two have been the dominant two cars of today's race, and it's fitting that it's going to come down to these two guys again.
And Porter, like you guys have talked about over the course of this race, absolutely starving for a race victory. And if you look back in history of Full Ride, in Jaden Porter's career specifically, his last proper win was back in season number 5. His last win technically was season 6 at Dover, but if you really look at how that race ended up, he finished second to his teammate Ethan Fonseca Moreno, but because of a post-race penalty given by the league admins to Moreno, it basically encumbered his race win, giving Porter the W at the moment. So Porter's last proper win was back at Charlotte in season 5 to get him into the championship finale at Homestead, where he captured the title for the first time in his career. And Francisco, he wants more than nothing to get a checkered flag this time around in this fashion, to earn it this way and dominate the way he has at Darlington. It would be a proper send to the playoffs for the Kentucky driver.
Well, that is more than what Jaden Porter wants. He's talked about it endlessly, that he wants to win. He doesn't care about being as good as he has all season if it means he's not winning a race. He has talked about wanting to get back into victory lane and putting himself as the championship favorite, and if he's able to be the points leader and finally capture that race win, then that is going to ultimately definitely include him as one of the title contenders, in spite of not being one of those big three.
So it is 0.4 of a second between Porter and Hawken in the battle for the lead. There's still some lap traffic in the mix, but the two leaders have gotten away from them for the most part. Mikey Neal and Michael Newbraw going at it. And then back in third is where you find Stephen Maggio, who has basically settled where he's at. As long as this race stays green and Maggio makes no crucial mistakes, he should walk away with another great points finish, and he'll end up on the podium. Lawson Peel, who has been relatively strong all night long, not as dominant as we envisioned he would be, but the Meineke Chevrolet will stay in fourth as it stands. Kyle Benson beat his teammate Craig Launslarger to the jump earlier in this green flag run, and while it's only half a second for fifth and sixth, it is almost decided as it goes. 7th place to Eric Schaefer. Cody Kinsey in the Kurt Busch Throwback doing a great job sitting 8th. Tristan Bailey in the Tabasco Fiasco car sitting 9th. And that Mikey Neal car that was right in the heart of the race lead battle, he sits in 10th, the first car a lap down. That just shows you how much this race has progressed to the green flag stops, Keelan, that we started this race with 32 cars on the grid, all of them on the lead lap for the most part, and over 2 green flag strategy sequences, only 9 sit on the lead lap.
It's been one of those races, Kenneth, and these are the best kind. You don't need to yell it to shake up the natural flow of this thing. 4 of our top 5 qualifiers remain in the top 5, and our 5th one sits back in 6th. So the fastest guys have stayed up front for the most part. A couple big movers, such as Kyle Benson and Eric Schaefer, have made their way into the top 10, but it has been the same guys battling it out up front, and we talked about it all day in the pre-race show about how the talent's going to rise to the top here at one of the hardest tracks to manage, and we are seeing some of our most talented drivers running up here for the race win in these closing laps as Porter and Hawken, after that, Timothy Cook and Brandon Hawken almost got into a bit of trouble right there, but ever since that contact with Porter and Hawken, it has maybe put a little bit of damage on that 98 car, and these lap times have started to even out as we see Hawken using everything he can off of turn 4 right there.
He's giving it all that he's got in these waning 7 laps and counting, but Francisco, there is still an obstacle ahead of Jaden Porter, and that's lap traffic.
Several obstacles as they're now side by side for position. It looks like it's going to be the 36 of Tyler Murray, one of them, as there they go side by side with the 24 of Craig Rowe. There's Porter on the scene. Where does he go in all this?
He'll go through the middle. Craig Rowe enters the apron to let those 2 leaders by. League owner Tyler Murray picks up 17th. He's a lap down. But does he let Jaden Porter slide easily with 6 laps to go? It's hard to do so in turns 1 and 2, and this could be the place where Hawken finds that sweet spot and targets the Chevrolet. Murray hits the outside wall. It lowers the exit point of Jaden Porter's way through turn 2, and Hawken's there 0.2 of a second.
And traffic ahead.
So Jaden has to be real smart here with 5 laps to go, Keelan Bosho, because if he does not, Brandon Hawken is still there, and this fight is far from over.
Got to run the 5 best laps of your life here. Running against one of the best drivers in the series, a guy looking for another win to tally on this season. Brandon Hawken, who has been one of our more dominant guys as far as wins go, and our most consistent guy, Jaden Porter, our points leader, trying to officially punch his ticket into the playoffs here. Coming to 4 laps to go, though. Jaden Porter is hungry, and you know this means everything to him if he can get back in victory lane. So he just needs 4 perfect laps around the Lady in Black.
Oh, and Curtis Kelly's going to hold him up.
There's Curtis Kelly on the inside. Porter's going to be up top of the exit at turn 2. How dangerous does this get? Near the outside wall, and there's a crash. Craig Rowe and Mikey Neal are stuffing it up at the exit of turn 2, and for the first time tonight, we've got a caution flag from Darlington Raceway.
And that means overtime.
Oh, no.
And if you're Jaden Porter, you are livid.
I don't think there's any man more mad right now than Jaden Porter.
4 laps away, less than that, from the race victory, and he has to try an overtime restart. We'll see what happened with Mikey Neal and Craig Rowe, 2 of those lapped cars that found trouble at the exit of turn 2, Francisco. What happens here?
Newbraw, looks like they both get into the wall. Newbraw tries to go to the inside of Rowe, and they just make contact. That sends them both up into the wall, and Mikey Neal just happens to be an innocent bystander and all that.
Just a cause and effect between those two, and as they crushed their race cars in turns 1 and 2, that will do it for the first caution of the race. Charlie Byer, the leaders are on pit road.
Leaders are on pit road. It's important to know that there's only 9 cars on the lead lap, so you're not going to lose a whole lot as these leaders in terms of track position, but if you're a guy who's on the lead lap, or who's still on the lead lap, but a little bit further down in the top 10, why not stay out? A lot of interesting strategies. We're going to see what kind of tires they take as well.
And the question is, do you take 2 Goodyear Eagles instead of the usual 4? Darlington is known to punish the drivers on tires, but if you're anyone in this field in those top 9, you can make that decision and stay out with only 2 laps to spare. Jacks are down. Jaden Porter takes 2. So does Brandon Hawken, and Jaden Porter defends the staple. He's back up front off pit road.
And he's not the only one to try 2 tires, Kenneth. I'm looking up and down this pit lane, and it appears to be the case. A lot of drivers went with 2 tires there. Interestingly, despite how many laps we ran, which is going to make for an interesting restart, at least at the acceleration point. But looking at some of these pit stops, the top 3 definitely took 2 tires, 9.7 on each of their stops. Lawson Peel, the first driver, on 4 tires. Everybody behind Lawson Peel is on 4 brand new sticker tires. So what does that mean for your top 3, Keelan?
I bet everybody thought they were getting the leg up on everybody by going 2 tires, but it seemed like everybody made the call just about. I mean, I couldn't. I don't know if we have anybody in the session who could tell us how that shook out, who took 2 and who didn't, just by pit times. You got that up there, Kenneth? You got the pit times? Can you tell?
We do. The leader, Jaden Porter, had an exit pit road stop at 9.6 seconds. So did Brandon Hawken. And for Maggio, it was about the same, 9.6 as well. 14.7, that's a 4-tire stop as we're indicated by Lawson Peel. 14.1 for Kyle Benson. Craig Lounslager at 15. So everybody 4th on back have taken 4 fresh Goodyear Eagles as we are setting up the field for the green flag restart, our first of the night, and we will extend this race past our scheduled distance into overtime. If we get a caution before the leader catches the white flag, we will double them up and do it all over again. If the leader does catch the white flag and a caution does not fly, we will end this race no matter what. Hawken has been the chaser the entire time. Porter has played the defense. Who stands up to the challenge now in our first attempt at overtime? Simple challenge. 2 laps to go from the lady in black. Jaden Porter takes the field through the Geico restart zone, and he's up and away with his teammate right behind him. Green flag back in the air in our first attempt at overtime.
And that is a great launch for Jaden Porter. Maggio almost gets clear of Hawkins, but they'll be side by side for a second. Porter has to get as big of a gap as he can as Hawkins gets into the wall hard.
And he'll slam Lawson Peel down the straightaway. He will not encounter trouble, so at the moment, we will stay green. Steven Maggio, remember, is on the 2 fresh Goodyear Eagles, so he's on the same strategy as Jaden Porter. The field catches up to the white flag. Craig Rowe is hard in the inside wall, but at the moment, no caution flag. White flag in the air from the virtual Darlington Raceway. Steven Maggio has said many times that Jaden Porter has been the hungriest driver of the field. Porter's loose off turn 2. His teammates in striking distance. Final charge through 3 and 4. Maggio will give the best punch, but Jaden Porter survives to be christened in gold. Finally, Jaden Porter can call himself a winner this season. Captures the W from Darlington.
What a effort there from Jaden Porter on the restart. And after making the mistake, is able to hold off teammate Steven Maggio to have a KBueno Racing 1-2 finish there. Brandon Hawkins went sliding off of turn 4 and just barely gets ahead to finish in the top 5 position. And Cody Kinsey brings it open P6.
So well deserved for Porter, the fastest guy out here. He's the first guy that I've seen go band for band with Brandon Hawkins at a track like this. So that's awesome for him to get in victory lane in the Dale Jr. Throwback, and what a win for Jaden Porter. First time he's crossed the start-finish line first since Season 5 at Charlotte, so I don't know if there's a happier guy than him, and he's probably very relieved after that overtime incident happened, and he's going to be able to hang on and park it in Paul's setup shop victory lane for the first time in Season 7.
At Auto Club Speedway earlier this season, Jaden told me that he's been hungry for a victory, and seeing his teammates succeed is wonderful and all, but he wants a piece of the cake too. Finally, after a long 149 lapper from Darlington, Porter achieves that goal, his first win of the season, and the Season 5 champ can find himself locked into the 4-wide playoffs this season as the Dale Jr. car burns it down, and he will enter Paul's setup shop victory lane for the first time in this season. Let's see if we can get another look at what happened on the overtime restart there at the end with 2 laps to go. And it all started, Francisco, with that pivotal restart. Steven Maggio definitely giving the helping hand to Jaden Porter as they were catching up to the start-finish line.
It was a great effort by both of them to get the launch necessary for Porter to get clear. Doesn't get the great turn 1. You see they're right behind him. But it looks like either contact between Maggio and the 98 of Brandon Hawkins sends him into the wall. Lawson Peel shoots all the way down to the racetrack, but he's able to recover decently in that to stay side by side with Kyle Benson. But Hawkins was giving everything he could, bouncing off the walls here off of turn 4, but it just wasn't enough to really make any ground. Rowe spun off of turn 4 there, almost bringing out the caution, but they got to the white flag in time. And then at this point, it was just what could Steven Maggio do to catch up to Jaden Porter. Porter didn't get a great exit off of turn 2. You see him get loose and have to chase it down, and Maggio did as well. And we'll see if we get an onboard look after that as they were running down the line. But here's the contact with Benson and Hawkins and all with Lawson Field trying to get a spot on the podium, which would eventually fall to Kyle Benson.
And there's Brandon Hawkins spinning across the line. I'm sure a little heartbroken at the way that ended, given the fact that he was so close to winning. Nicholas Bauman T-boning him at the end of the race. Not sure whether Adamans will look at that, but Brandon Hawkins survives the melee at the end and ends up getting a P5. Let's get a look from Steven Maggio's perspective, sitting in second place, Keelan. And, you know, give credit to Jaden Porter for playing this defense, but Maggio certainly had a shot here.
He did have a shot. I think if Maggio just doesn't quite bottle this exit off of turn 2 as much as he does, because you can see how free he gets and how close he gets to the wall. He has to kind of breathe the gas pedal right there coming off the corner, because had to catch the car a little bit. He probably would have been a lot closer than he was, but he gave a valiant effort into 3 and 4. I mean, just like Kyle Busch and Chase Briscoe, he's probably heartbroken back there in the 51. But as heartbroken as he is, he's probably very happy for Jaden Porter, because you talked about it, how he's talked to you about how there's nobody hungrier for a win than Jaden Porter. I think he's very happy for him.
Jaden Porter enters victory lane for the first time this season, and in stunning fashion, it looked like it was going to end under green. Found ourselves in an overtime restart, and after only one, Jaden Porter gets the W. The second consecutive week where we've had only one attempt at overtime decide this race. Let's get a look at the unofficial results from this 149 lap affair from the Lady in Black. Jaden Porter tames the too tough to tame track and gets his first W since season 6 Dover. Steven Maggio, the teammate right behind, looked like they were working basically in synchronization over this race. He finishes 2/10 behind. Kyle Benson, strong night all race long and ends up in P3. We'll talk to all three of them before we wrap up our coverage tonight. Lawson Peel, very strong and settles for P4. Nice points for the Mississippi driver, while Brandon Hawkins saw his race nearly won after trying to get around Porter, and then it was stripped away from him in those final two, ending up in P5. Cody Kinsey, a valiant effort to bring the Kerpers Throwback in his Chevrolet to position number 6. Craig Lounslogger finalizes tonight's race in 7th, while Tristan Bailey, the fellow Murray Reedy Motorsports teammate, is in 8th. Eric Schaefer rebounds from a loose race car at the jump of this race to finish 9th. And the other Dale Jr. Throwback brings the end of the top 10, Francisco.
Yeah, P11 will go to Juan Escamilla, who was our in-race reporter. We didn't get to talk to him at all tonight, but he finishes in P11 on the lead lap. Nicholas Bauman there finishes in P12. AJ Green rounds out in the 13th spot. Keith Beasley, last car on the lead lap, will finish in the 14th spot. Trevor Haley, a lap down in the 15th spot. Curtis Kelly will finish in 16th. Last week's winner, Lance Hill, will round out in the 17th spot. Tyler Murray will finish in 18th. Adam Alishire in the 19th position, with Christopher Bishop rounding out your top 20.
Back in the 21st position was Brandon Banks in a Ricky Rudd throwback, with Craig Rowe, who got involved in that late yellow, along with Michael Newbrow, 22nd and 23rd. Timothy Cook in the 19 machine finishes in 24th. Greg Parks 8 laps down in 25th. Daniel Moore in the 77 and 26th. Steven Stempian, who had a great top 5 run going before the pit road mishap, back in 27th. Ryan Pandiccio in a 63 and 28th. Rookie Dusty Applin back in 29th, with Tony Kibbett for Drinking Bros Racing back in the 30th position, as Brandon Gillis, Kevin D'Elia, and Eric Stewart round out the field.
That's your full 33-car lineup from Darlington Raceway, and a great race as it was until the end. Let's get a word with the race winner for the first time this season, and for Paul's Setup Shop Victory Lane, they get to greet Jaden Porter this time around. Jaden, welcome to Victory Lane. It's been quite a long while. How do you feel after a long-awaited victory?
I feel so relieved. I put a lot of pressure on myself entering this year to say that I was going to at least get a win at some point. And we've been close so many times this year. Vegas, Bristol, I can name about all 5 on one hand, but it feels good to get a win. I was not expecting to have anywhere near the pace that I did tonight after practice. I thought I was going to be around 5th to 7th all night, and I did not really think I had the pace to Hewitt Hawken, but sometimes it just happens, I guess.
And what are those emotions like behind the wheel? Because you go from a toe-to-toe battle with one of the best drivers in this series in Brandon Hawken to realizing there's a caution flag developing right behind you, and you have to hold off the field in overtime. What were your emotions like in that moment?
Honestly, I was real nervous about going to pit road and coming out with the lead, because I know Hawken, he kills me when I go to pit road. And I felt confident if I got the lead, I was going to be okay, especially with having Steven by me. But I thought this was going to be how I lost the race when the caution came out. But be able to hang on and win in this beautiful throwback. But yeah, I just feel so relieved right now to get a win finally.
You pay tribute in the perfect way, too. You have a car, Dale Jr., that bears the 88 on it, and you lead 88 laps on the way to the victory tonight. So maybe there was something in the cards all along. But Jaden, you've seen your teammates have success throughout this season. Steven Stempian winning the first race, Steven Maggio taking 3 wins this season, Ethan being as strong as he has all season long. For you to finally add your name to the win column along your teammates, what does that mean for you to finally get that monkey off your back, number one, but to finally call yourself a winner, number two, after what's been a wild season this far?
I feel a lot of relief. I feel like I could finally race a little differently. I know I've probably made a lot of mistakes late in races because I've been thinking about, if I'd win or if I don't win. Now I don't have to really worry about that. I can race kind of differently now. And just have the confidence, to go toe to toe with a guy like Hawk. And it's very rare you have a chance to beat him. And I'm just glad I was able to do that tonight.
Well, Jaden, it was a great standoff from Brandon Hawken, and you hold on in overtime to capture your first win of the campaign. Before we let you go, anybody in particular you want to thank for the success tonight?
Yeah, I want to thank all my teammates at KBueno Racing, Steven, the other Steven, Mikey joined. They all kept me calm during the late part of the race when it beat me a little down when Hawken was catching me. Thanks to Ethan, he actually put the scheme together a while back. Thanks to him. You guys for doing the broadcast. A few of my friends are watching. Hopefully they're still watching. And thanks to Tyler for hosting this league.
Well, they're going crazy in chat for you, Jaden. They are super, super supportive of what's going on in this very moment. Jaden, a big congratulations from all of us at the KBueno Racing Network on the victory. Welcome to the playoffs, and hopefully we'll see you at the Kansas race 1 week from tonight. But until then, enjoy the victory. Congratulations.
Thank you, bud.
That is Jaden Porter capturing his first W of the season in crazy fashion. And we'll toss down to the second place finisher, Steven Maggio Francisco, who gave it his all in the final laps. And KBueno Racing gets a 1-2.
Well, Steven, it was certainly a strong effort from you there at the end to try and go for the race win. It looked like you were just a little bit behind both Jaden and Brandon Hawken all night long. What more did you need to be able to come away with victory?
Probably just more experience, to be honest. At the end of that first run, I felt really good. I think I had the best tires out of anyone at the end of that first run. And then I pit only, I think, 1 lap earlier than those two. And I didn't come out as far ahead of them as I should have. And I let them go early. And I just didn't have it after that. I got really tight. And I couldn't figure out why. Maybe I was just accidentally driving it harder than the first run. And same thing with the second run. That run I pit way before them both because I was trying to split it equally into thirds. And once they got to me, I didn't have anything. I was really tight again. But I was happy that caution came out at the end. And I wasn't willing to wreck him for it. That's basically what it came down to. I got a run off of 2, and I thought, I could bump him really hard into 3. I just wasn't willing to do it, especially since he was looking for his first win still, and he's my teammate, and I respect him too much to do that. So it's not the way I want to race, and I'm plenty happy with second place. I'm never really that good at this track.
That makes it about 5 or 6 top 2 finishes you have on the season now, Steven, which goes to show that even though you are a rookie driver, you're continuing the status quo of rookie drivers being able to excel. What is it about, whether it's the car, the tracks that we've been to, that have really helped you perform as well as you have to this point in the season? And if you permit me just for 1 second here, that allows you to be now P7 in the points.
Yeah, I think just trying to learn from my competition and learn every race I do. I mean, I'm trying to learn, and I haven't been doing this for that long, only about a year and a month now. So every race I do, I'm just trying to see what other people do and try to copy them a little bit. And I just done this track in this car combo last Friday, ironically, and I learned a lot from Jonathan Parker, and he gave me some tips, which really helped me out, so shout out to him. And I tried to take that to this race and just, analyze everything that I'm doing, not just go into the corner carelessly, just really try to see what's working and see what's not, and learn as best I can from it. And just, try to stay consistent, don't make any enemies, which I feel like I've done a pretty good job of, and just log laps and learn for the playoffs.
A lot of learning, a lot of lap logging, and you've done a great job so far of being able to complete laps and get good results, Steven. We go to the Kansas Speedway now next week, so what is it that you have to carry over to that racetrack to try and get a similar result?
I have no clue. Honestly, that may be my very worst track on the simulator, so we will have to do a lot of learning that week and hopefully just get a top 5 maybe. I don't know. I get super, super tight at that track. Maybe I can take some of what I learned tonight, but they're so different. I don't think I'm really going to be able to learn too much from tonight. But yeah, we'll go out and just see what we can do. I'm honestly not optimistic for it, but let's see how it goes.
Well, it was a strong effort from you, Steven, and we'll give you the floor to give you the shout outs to everybody that helps make this possible for you and your number 51 team.
Shout out my team, KBueno Racing, my teammates Jaden Porter, Mikey Neal, Steven Sempian. I can't shout out my paint team because I'm the one that made it this week, which is I never do that. I'll shout out Rivers Jones. He gave me a high resolution smiley face for it, so shout out to him for that. Like I said, shout out Jonathan Parker for giving me some tips. You guys in the booth for doing this. Always a great broadcast. Just tonight probably was a great race to watch. That's about it.
We appreciate
Jaden Porter for winning. Sorry. Shout out Jaden Porter for winning. Great race. That was really, and Hawken too. We had a fun battle that whole race.
It was definitely fun to watch from the booth, Steve, and you'll have a good time watching it back once it all is said and done. But we appreciate the effort and the time you take to partake with us here this on your Wednesday nights, and appreciate you for joining us in the booth. Congratulations on your excellent podium result, and we hope to see you out there at Kansas.
Thank you. Have a good one.
That's Steven Maggio, the fellow KBueno Racing driver who comes home in second. Keelan Belsha has the third place finisher for tonight's race, Kyle Benson.
Well, Kyle, it was a good race for you. We were kind of really tuned into the top three there from a majority of the last 100 laps or so. What was it like back there in the battle for fourth, battle for fifth, when you guys were 15 seconds back, seemingly nowhere to be seen? What was it like racing back there with Lawson and all them?
It was tough. Coming back from starting 15th is definitely not fun, but just kind of really just pick and choose your battles and just kind of take it one at a time. Just trying to, because this place is really, really hard to pass depending on where you're at. Really just saving tires like usual and just doing our thing. I think if I qualified a little better, I think I probably would have been up there. But you hope, and hindsight's always 20/20, and you hope to qualify better. But it is what it is. Qualifying threw me for a loop, so just kind of had to battle my way up to the field, and came up with a third place finish.
And then you still sit second in the point standing, 39 points back from Jaden Porter. And out of our really consistent front runners that are always running up front, you're about the last one waiting on to crack into victory lane. So how soon do you feel like that's coming sometime soon? Any of these tracks favor you?
I don't know. Pretty much just kind of just point racing at this point. I'd love to get a win. I think I threw away about 2 of them already this year, so I'd love to go back to Daytona and win. I think I've won at Kansas before. I kind of circled Darlington because I won here before too. Coming in a good chunk of races for me. But we're just gonna try not to worry about winning and just keep going forward. And just hope to get the playoffs.
A good mentality to have, because a lot of times it's people talking about wanting to get in victory lane and stressing themselves out over the win. We never have those points racers anymore, and so far you've been doing it pretty well, sitting second. And about that Jason Leffler throwback, I talked about it earlier in the show. I was like, I'm biased. This has got to be my favorite one in the field. What inspired you to run a Jason Leffler throwback? Because I feel like nobody would have ever picked out a number 38 Jason Leffler Nationwide Series car, but you did, and I really admire that as a dirt fan at heart.
Oh yeah, Jason Leffler is a prominent figure in dirt racing, and unfortunately him losing his life was a big hit for sprint car racing, and he was always really good. In my opinion, he just never got the right opportunities, but he was always good. I always rooted for him a little bit when he was running Busch Series and 38 Sports Clips cars, but Tyler kind of chose this one for me, and I had to, because it's so synonymous with dirt racing. It's the same thing with like Casey Kane's cars too. I know Casey ran this car a few times too. But yeah, it was good to run it. It was good to give him a ride, and it was definitely fun. Definitely fun to get inspired by that.
Well, it looked really good out there. It was probably my favorite one out there on the track tonight. Well, Kyle, you want to thank for making this great podium run possible as you notch your 6th top 5 of the season.
Oh yeah, you gotta thank Murray Reed Motorsports. We got a good finish tonight. First time we had all top 3 drivers in the top 10, so that's good points. Craig was giving me a run for my money all race long. He definitely could have got a better finish too, but it's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. But Tyler just doing Tyler, and then Chris, our fullback, just holding up the rear, man. He's the glue guy. He keeps us all together and all that stuff. But not Murray. Reedy didn't make it tonight. He had other plans. So, but yeah. Other than that, though, I gotta thank y'all for a broadcast. Nice little throwback. Had a little fun with that. The racing was amazing as usual. And I'll see y'all next week, hopefully.
Well, good talking to you, Kyle. Look forward to seeing you next week at Kansas as you hunt down that first win of the year.
Yep, thank you.
That is Kyle Benson coming home in third place from the virtual Darlington Raceway. Great effort by him at the end of it, and love the story with the Jason Leffler throwback there. Obviously, when you toss to a late driver, you're trying to honor the impact that they left when they were still alive. So great stuff by Kyle Benson in third. I'm sure he's very happy with that, and I'm sure he's happy with all of the points that he'll pick up over the course of the season after this race. But guys, what a finale to this race. In the way that it turned out, the utmost strategy from Porter, Maggio, and Hawken to battle the way that they did in those final laps. Then it turned into a caution. We thought it might have gone crazy after overtime began, but it ended up being a stunner of a race. And Jaden Porter, Francisco, the emotions definitely unraveling at this moment in time. Relief is the biggest one, but the happiness and everything that comes with it definitely is starting to waterfall, because Porter's journey to this win has been pretty tough, and this season he's been knocking on the door. Finally, he can call himself a playoff driver and a race winner this season.
Yeah, this has been a culmination for him for a while now, and he's expressed it on multiple occasions how he just wants to win races. He wants to go out there. He knows he's going to get those good results, but he wants to take the checkered flags that everyone's always talking about. And finally, for him, he's been able to do that, and at the most difficult racetrack at that, at Darlington. So he knows that he now has the confidence to go out there and go get some more race wins to his name while we still have races to go into the playoffs. He was the point leader. He still is. He has a 39-point lead, so he is really stretching out that gap out in front of the standings. Just so far ahead of everybody else. Kyle Benson being the driver in second. Hawken moves his way up into third in points, and Lawson Pugh moves his way up into fourth, with Curtis Kelly falling all the way back to fifth. But those three are really close to each other, all within about 65 to 70 points behind Jaden Porter. It just goes to show just how strong Porter has been this season, that even though this is his first win, just look at the gap of points he has on everybody else. So Jaden Porter, if he's able to put some wins together, there's no reason why you can't pick him as a potential title contender alongside your drivers with 3 wins.
And now that makes it KBueno Racing with the most driver wins of the season at 3, with Steven Maggio, Steven Stempian, and the most recent addition of Jaden Porter. So the team continues to succeed in that front, and Porter may have found his footing to start a hot streak, just like Lawson Peel did not that long ago when he got the win at Atlanta, then picked up another one at Indianapolis, and he's been successful from there on out. And looking forward to the schedule, we only have one race, guys, until the All-Star break at Las Vegas. January 22nd is our next affair at America's Heartland, Kansas Speedway, Keelan. And like Steven told us earlier, it's a very different track. You really can't learn anything from Darlington that you can play into Kansas with, but another mile-and-a-half track. And as we've seen this season, mile-and-a-half tracks typically are good news in 4-wide, so hopefully we'll see another banger there. Well, it looks like Keelan may be out of it. I think he just is trying to get those thoughts together after the victory. But Kansas is next on January 22nd. We'll go to the 1.5 miler in Kansas. Will be there next week, Wednesday night, 8:40 p.m. Eastern is where you'll find the coverage right here on the KBueno Racing Network YouTube channel. The week after that is where we take on the All-Star break at the virtual Las Vegas Motor Speedway for January 29th. We got a 100-lap main event where the Season 6 and 7 pole winners, race winners, previous champions, and previous All-Star winners can take part. And then we've got a 35-lap open race that takes place before that for other drivers to qualify in. Those top 3, along with the next 2 highest in points, and the winner of the fan vote will join the rest of those guys in a 100-lap feature at the 1.5 mile in the Nevada desert. If you want to get in on the fan vote, you can go to 4wideracing.com or visit 4WR Racing on X. Again, that's 4wideracing.com or the 4WR Racing Twitter page, X page, if you will, to get a hint of where the fan vote is and get the link down and be able to vote for your favorite driver if they are not already qualified into the main All-Star race on January 29th. Well, that would do it for our coverage of the 4Wide Racing TJ's Team Series from Darlington. For all of the members of the 4Wide admin team, Tyler Murray and the rest of the admins on all their hard work to make this series happen, a big thank you to them. And for all of us at the KBueno Racing Network, for Francisco Bacalhau, Charlie Beyer, Eli Comerford, and Keelan Belsha, I'm Kenneth Bueno, saying so long from the Lady in Black, and a congratulations to Jaden Porter on his first win of the season. We'll see you out in Kansas.